Good morning. Good morning, sunshines. Good morning. Oh no, I have the wrong title again. God damn it. Maybe someday I'll do this right. Maybe someday I'll be lucky. Where's my wake and bake title? Maybe someday he'll stay. Maybe someday. Maybe this time for the first time. Love won't hurry away. Ooh, where's my title? Something's got to give in. Oh, I almost didn't hit that note. Maybe I didn't. Maybe you didn't hit the note. Good morning. Maybe this time. That's not it. I'll be lucky. Maybe this time. Oh boy, this sounds terrible. I'm gonna stop. Don't try to sing when you just wake up. I've also got a scary crick in my shoulder, and I'm scared because I thought I got rid of this pain. I thought I got rid of this pain. Oh, did you manage to not blow through any stop signs this morning and get groceries? Mm, there we go. Neil. Aw, thanks, Pep. I don't want to have a hurdy back. I don't want to. I'm like always scared, right? I took a different route. um, I hate being scared of my back. Good morning. The gift link for this morning's bombshell. Oh, we have a bombshell already? I was busy cleaning up cat poop. We have a bombshell and I missed it? Oh, I'm going to have to exercise today. Enforce 100% OPSEC. SecDef DUI. Oh, shitty balls. Oh! Oh! Oh, shit! Is this a... oh, Jesus Christ. I'm telling you right now, Hegseth is going down. Hegseth is going down. I don't care what anybody says. He's even too much of a liability for this crew. Unbelievably. So apparently there was nothing secret inside in the signal chat. So much so that all those people said there's nothing in there. There's nothing there's nothing secret. I don't know what's falling. There's nothing secret in those messages. Yeah, there is. Ooh, I just finished reading it. Goldberg published the text. It's amazing. I'm sorry. I have to read it. I'm so sorry. Sorry that you read it already, Pepper. That's kind of a bummer. Let me see. Okay. Let me bring this over here where I can see it easier. Hi. Hi. Oh. Tech is hard today. Actually, it's just hand movements that... Caroline, tell us all about the plans. Caroline, tell us what they really meant to say. Caroline, tell us it doesn't matter what we think, we should shut up and take it. Because Caroline is very bitter that she's never been taken seriously. But the funny part isn't because she isn't taken seriously because of her looks, it's because she's incredibly insipid. Okay? You don't even get a pass because you're a stupid blonde bimbo. And I can say that because I am a blonde bimbo. That's not the dumbest thing about you. It's your insipidness. Hold on. All right, I'm trying to get shit figured out, and I'm not doing very well. Okay. Okay, be serious now. Come on. Come on, Lolo. Be serious. All right, let's read this bitch. Here are the attack plans that apparently were no big deal. Oops. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. The administration has downplayed the importance of the text messages inadvertently sent to the Atlantic's editor-in-chief. No, this isn't just a rando. Okay? They didn't include a random reporter on it. It was the editor-in-chief of Atlantic Magazine, which I don't even care what you think about Atlantic Magazine, chuds. I know you don't read it because you can't really comprehend it. It's fine. I used to feel that way about the New Yorker. It takes time. Even now, today, I can read New Yorker articles and not really understand what the point is. So it's okay to admit that you're not, equipped, that you're learning. But that means you actually have to read the articles in order to get better about understanding the articles. I know. Insanity. But here we are. Okay. Oh, I thought it was J.G. Wentworth, and I wanted my money now. I thought I put J.G. Wentworth on that text chain. I really did. I'm doing Mike Waltz. This finger, yeah. That's me doing Mike Waltz. Okay, I guess it's not that funny, but I thought it was kind of funny. Neil, remember thinking about finding tickets, you don't need an appointment, you just show up. Oh, interesting. All right, here we go. So, about the signal chat. I'm sorry, I just got a crick in my back. I'm really upset about it. Okay, I need to go exercise today. I'm going to take a big walk or something. On Monday, shortly after we published a story about a massive Trump administration security breach, a reporter asked the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, why he had shared plans about a forthcoming attack on Yemen on the Signal messaging app. Nobody was texting war plans, he answered. And that's all I have to say about that. So there. Good morning, Peace Love. At a Senate hearing yesterday, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and the Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, John Ratcliffe, demonstrated that they have very little intelligence, actually. But they were both asked about the Signal chat, to which Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, was inadvertently invited by National Security Advisor Michael Waltz. What? There was no classified material that was shared in that Signal group, Gabbard told members of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Yes, she did. Ratcliffe said much the same. My communications, to be clear, in the Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information. My communications, okay? Language matters. Language matters, okay? My communications were entirely permissible. Like when I said, I'll have a Diet Coke. Like those kinds of things. Those are permissible. Hi, Teresa. How are you doing? Or is it? President Dump asked yesterday afternoon about the same matter, said it wasn't classified information, and if anyone would know, it would be him. Right? I mean, can we all agree? He can't possibly be lying about that. Anyway, let's read on. These statements presented us with a dilemma. The Atlantic's initial story about the Signal chat, the Houthi PC small group, as it was named by Waltz, we withheld specific information related to weapons and to the timing of attacks that we found in certain texts. As a general rule, we do not publish information about military operations if that information could possibly jeopardize the lives of U.S. personnel. That is why we chose to characterize the nature of the information being shared, not specific details about the attacks. Let's see. The statements by Hegseth, Gabbard, Ratcliffe, and Dump, combined with the assertions made by numerous administration officials that we are lying about the content of the signal text, have led us to believe that people should see the text in order to reach their own conclusions. There is a clear public interest in disclosing the sort of information that Trump advisors included in non-secure communication channels, especially because senior administration figures are attempting to downplay the significance of the messages that were shared. Ah. Experts have repeatedly told us that use of signal chat for such sensitive discussions poses a threat to national security. As a case in point, Goldberg received information on the attacks 2 hours before the scheduled start of bombing of Houthi positions. If this information, particularly the exact times of American aircraft were taking off for Yemen, had fallen into the wrong hands in that crucial 2-hour period, American pilots and other American personnel could have been exposed to even greater danger than they ordinarily would face. The Trump administration is arguing that the military information contained in these texts was not classified, as it typically would be, although the president has not explained how he reached this conclusion. Yesterday, we asked officials across the Trump administration if they objected to us publishing the full text. In emails to the Central Intelligence Agency, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the National Security Council, the Department of Defense, and the White House, we wrote, in part, quote, in light of statements today from multiple administration officials, including before the Senate Intelligence Committee, good morning, butterflies, committee, that the information in the signal chain about the Houthi strike is not classified and that it does not contain, quote, war plans. The Atlantic is considering publishing the entirety of the signal chain. We sent our first request for comment and feedback to national security officials shortly after noon and followed up in the evening after most failed to answer. Late yesterday, the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt emailed a response. As we have repeatedly stated, there was no classified information transmitted in the group chat. However, as the CIA director, how many Scaramucci's is she going to last? However, as the CIA director and national security advisor both expressed today under oath, I added the under oath part. That does not mean we encourage release of the conversation. Oh, really? That was intended to be an internal an internal and private deliberation amongst high-level staff, and sensitive information was discussed. Sensitive. So for those reasons, yes, we object to the release. The Leavitt statement did not address which elements of the text the White House considered sensitive, or how, more than a week after the initial airstrikes, their publication could have bearing on national security. A CIA spokesperson asked us to withhold the name of John Ratcliffe's chief of staff, which Ratcliffe had shared in the signal chain, because CIA intelligence officers are traditionally not publicly identified. Well, then you should talk to Ratcliffe. Yeah, her grammar's worse than mine. I don't think that's her strong suit. Just kidding. I don't like her, all right? So I'm going to insult her. It's going to be the way it is. Let's see. Officer Ratcliffe had testified earlier yesterday that the officer is not undercover and said it was completely appropriate to share their name in that signal conversation. We will continue to withhold the name of the officer. Otherwise, the messages are unredacted. Wow. As we wrote on Monday, much of the conversation in the Houthi PC small group concerned the time. They're going to go after the Atlantic now for doing this. You know that, right? You know that. Concerned the timing and rationale of attacks on the Houthis, and contained remarks by Trump administration officials about the alleged shortcomings of American European allies. But on the day of the attack, Saturday, March 15th, the discussion veered toward the operational. At 11:44 a.m. Eastern Time, Hegseth posted in the chat in all caps, "Team update." The text beneath this began, "Time now, 11:44 ET. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are a go for mission launch." He's wanted to type that his whole life. The cosplaying and the LARPing that is going on right now is maddening, because it's putting people's lives in danger. God, I hope he got real drunk and hit his head last night. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope he's going to suffer for this. I really do. I want him to suffer. I want him to be really upset and worry about his job and his whatever he's got in his life every day. I want him to worry every day. That's all. Yeah, Secretary Drunk Ass. I like it, Pepper. Good morning, Val. All right, 12:15 ET F-18's launch first strike package. 13:45 trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also strike drones launch MQ-9s. Let us pause here for a moment to underscore a point. The signal message shows that the U.S. Secretary of Defense texted a group that included a phone number unknown to him, Goldberg's cell phone, at 11:44 a.m. This was 31 minutes before the first U.S. warplanes launched, and 2 hours and 1 minute before the beginning of a period in which a primary target, the Houthi target terrorist, was expected to be killed by these American aircraft. If this text had been received by someone hostile to American interests or someone merely indiscreet and with access to social media, the Houthis would have had time to prepare for what was meant to be a surprise attack on their strongholds. The consequences for American pilots could have been catastrophic. I see you, but probably can't see me. Only Neil can. Wait, what? Iggy! Teresa, I can see you. I can see you. I see you. Okay, let's see here. My nose. Okay. The Hegseth text then continued. 14:10, more F-18s launch, second strike package. 14:15, strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. 15:36, F-18 second strike starts. Also, first sea-based Tomahawks launched. More to follow per timeline. We are currently clean on OPSEC. Oh my God. Godspeed to our warriors. This guy needs to be yanked. Come on, yank this motherfucker, please. Can we? You can see both Teresa and Iggy. Okay, good. Good. Did you get yoinked? Did you say something that YouTube didn't like, Teresa? Yeah, USA, USA. We're currently clean on OPSEC, except for this number I don't recognize. Twitter locked me out this morning, and to verify it myself, it says I'm flagged for a while. I was just curious. Oh, I don't know if I can see you on Twitter. I can't see anybody on Twitter, really. I mean, I think this is my time to leave Twitter. I don't know. I'm going to keep my name, though, because I love my Lolo 13251797. That's my favorite name of all the stuff I have. I should name my channel that. Twitter does suck. And so do me a favor, ban me. Shortly after, Vice President J.D. Vance texted the group, I will say a prayer for victory. At 1:48 p.m., Walt sent the following text containing real-time intelligence about conditions at an attack site, apparently in Sana'a. VP, building collapsed, had multiple positive ID. Pete Carrilla and the IC, amazing job. Walt was referring to Hegseth here, General Michael E. Carrilla, the commander of Central Command, in the intelligence community, or IC. Reference to multiple positive ID suggests that U.S. intelligence had ascertained that the identities of the Houthi target or targets using either human or technical assets. 6 minutes later, the vice president, apparently confused by Waltz's message, wrote, "What?" At 2 p.m., Waltz responded, typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy. We had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and it's now collapsed. They bombed an apartment building to get this one guy. How many people died? Vance responded a minute later, excellent. 35 minutes after that, Ratcliffe, the CIA director, wrote, a good start, which Waltz followed up with a text containing a fist emoji, an American flag emoji, and a fire emoji. The Houthi-run Yemeni Health Ministry reported that at least 53 people were killed in the strikes, a number that has not been independently verified. That's not a military target. That's not a military target. That's not a military target. You know how many students, like Yemeni students I had in Brooklyn? Do you know how many Yemeni families live in Brooklyn? A lot. And you know what happens with their girls when they get to older age? They send them back to Yemen to get married. That's what happens. The parents agree to and support their daughters getting an education, and for reasons really understandable to me, but it's not my culture. They send their daughters back to Yemen to get married. So, yeah, yeah, they do. Yeah, they're not. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I just think this is going to be added to the list of human toll. Great job. More strikes going on for hours tonight, and we'll provide full initial report tomorrow, but on time, on target, and good readout so far. It's still unclear why a journalist was added to the text exchange. Waltz, who invited Goldberg into the Signal chat, said yesterday that he was investigating how the heck he got into this room. 19 members. Okay, so here's my other point. God damn it. 19 people. And you're telling me for something as important as a military strike, you're not looking and understanding who all of those 19 people are in that group. It is not a huge group where you can't tell who's on there and who's not. It's bullshit. There wasn't even an immediate threat. They agreed in this text group they could wait to do this. They did it out of political convenience. My God. What do they have to do? Do they have to just kill a baby in front of us? Is that what they have to do for us to understand that what they want to do is just kill people? Do they have to just slit a baby's throat in front of us? Is that what's going to get us upset about this? Because these guys just want to kill people. And I get it. The U.S. has a grand history of this. Great. Now's the time to change. Let's change now. Yikes. Michael Waltz added you to the group. It's really fucking hard to do that by mistake. Okay? It's hard to do that by mistake. Michael Waltz, team establishing a principals group for coordination on Houthis, particularly over the next 72 hours. My deputy Alex Wong is pulling together a Tiger team at deputies agency chief of staff level, following up from the meeting in the sit room this morning for action items, and we'll be sending that out later this evening. See, they just didn't want to hang out at work. You know, they didn't want to hang out at work. They wanted to be able to go to Les Diplomat or wherever, the Palm. They didn't want to hang out at work. It was too much bother. So they decided, let's take this meeting on the road. Please provide the best point of contact from your team for us to coordinate. Mike Needham for state, Andy Baker, Joe Kent. Joe Kent's a fucking idiot. Does everyone realize that? He's like a real idiot. He's a Matt Gaetz protege. I think that tells you everything you need to know. Team, you should have a statement of conclusions with taskings per the President's guidance this morning in your high side inboxes. State and DOD, we developed suggested notification lists for regional allies and partners. Joint staff is sending this AM a more specific sequence of events in the coming days, and we'll work with DOD to ensure COS Chief of Staff, Office of the Vice President, and POTUS are briefed. Team, I'm out for the day going on an economic event in Michigan, but I think we're making a mistake. JD Vance. 3% of U.S. trade runs through Suez. 40% of European trade does. There's a real risk that the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this, as POTUS says, is to send a message. But I'm not sure how the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There's a further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. It's inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now, which I guess is we don't help Europe. I'm willing to support the consensus of the team and keep these concerns to myself, but there's a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is. Literally, that they didn't have to do it. It was just a message. They didn't have to blow up an apartment building. They didn't have to blow up an apartment building. There's nothing time sensitive driving the timeline. We'll have the exact same options in a month. Joe Kent saying the quiet part out loud. That this is not urgent. This is not a reason to put people's lives in danger. Oh, see your comment on the high side above. Hegseth knows it was classified because he acknowledged it by telling people that they had info on the high side, which indicates it's not just secret, but top secret. Ah, thank you, gal. Thank you. Wish I could do that highlight thing. Chat highlight. There's nothing. Okay, the Israelis will likely take strikes and therefore ask us for more support to replenish whatever they use against the Houthis, but that's a minor factor. I will send you the N-class data we pulled on BAM shipping. Yeah, so this is us helping, the Saudis and the Israelis? Is that what this is, really? Is that what this is? Is that what this is? Yeah, this means Tulsi and Ratcliffe lied big time yesterday. Yeah, it's true. I know, the timing on that was so great. It's amazing, Jane, that we had that hearing yesterday. Wow. I wish everything would work out like that. From the CIA perspective, we're actually having another one this morning, so I have to kind of keep it half an eyeball on the... Actually, let me do that while I'm fucking around here. I think... I'll keep reading this, but I just want to see what is, because I know I had some things happening this morning. Oh God. Okay, so listen. There's another hearing on worldwide threats with Tulsi and Cash, and then there's an anti-PBS. Let me see here. Okay, so that's not started yet. And that's at 9 a.m. And that's that, and that's this, and that's those, and that's these. All right. Where's the other thing? What was I just reading? Ah. La 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 la. Sorry. This no, that. Put the article there, that, and that. No, there, that. Okay. All right. Let's keep going here. Two things. Restoring freedom of Okay, so we are prepared to execute. Wait. Sorry, I lost my place here. Okay, the BAM.
We
Okay,
have the
so Joe.
witnesses seated, please.
Dang it!
Morning. Morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
Choked up. You got a cold?
How you doing? What are we doing? Secretary Drunky. Wait, what did he say? May I just say thank you for being back this week? I wouldn't be able to keep up with all. Oh, thank you. That means everything. Thank you so much. Thank you. I want Witkoff gone too. Witkoff's a fucking idiot. He's a fucking idiot. Well, who reacted to with prayer hands to JD? I want to know that. Steve Witkoff? Ugh. I'm wearing orange today in support of my man. I'm wearing orange today in support of my man. He told me to bomb him, and that's what I did. I'm here in support. Where's Pete Hegseth? Oh, I guess it's an intelligence hearing.
Objection, the chair may declare the committee in recess at any time. Before
Who are you, Crawford? We don't know you.
Important reminders. First, today's open portion is being broadcast live on C-SPAN and streamed on the committee's YouTube channel. This open portion of the hearing
a lot
will
of
be conducted
places
entirely on an unclassified basis. All participants are reminded to refrain from discussing classified or other sensitive information protected from public disclosure. I will adjourn this open session following completion of one round of questions, and we will then move into a closed session where such questions can be asked. Second, I want to inform the audience that while I fully support constitutionally protected free speech and the right to assemble, this is not the time or place. Any would-be disruptors in the audience who interfere with the committee's business will not be tolerated. For this event, members will have 5 minutes with witnesses. I would ask each of my colleagues to keep both your questions and complete answers from the witnesses within those allotted 5 minutes. Any last questions that can't be answered in time will be submitted for the record. In the same manner in which the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence has conducted itself in recent worldwide threats hearings, I expect that we will continue to act in a bipartisan and a respectful manner during today's event. I'm confident all members can treat each of our witnesses today with
Is it respectful to share war plans with a journalist?
Practice.
Just saying.
This worldwide threats hearing provides the American people the opportunity to hear directly from our intelligence community leadership on the threats that face our nation. It's my pleasure to welcome our witnesses to today's hearing. Director of National Intelligence, the Honorable Tulsi Gabbard. Director of Central Intelligence Agency, the Honorable John Ratcliffe. Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Honorable Kash Patel. Director of National Security Agency, General Tim Hawk. Director of Defense Intelligence Agency, Lieutenant General Jeffrey Cruz. Thank you all for being here. First, I want to address an issue that was made public earlier this week regarding a group text message exchange that included several members of President Trump's.
And I'm going to run through it because I'm really nervous about it, and I don't want you to get mad at me.
Yesterday, our colleagues on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence held their hearing on the annual threat assessment, and unfortunately, instead of exploring the real and existential threats that face our nation, which is the purpose of this hearing, this issue consumed most of their time. While I will address this topic further in my questions, it's my sincere hope that we use this hearing to discuss the many foreign threats facing our nation.
Well, you know what? Because our bigger threat is from the people running the government,
between Russia and
sir.
Ukraine has just surpassed 3 years and now includes North Korean troops on the battlefield.
Yeah, whose fault
Iran
is that?
remains the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, supporting terrorist organizations throughout the Middle East like Hezbollah and Hamas, fueling the latter's war with Israel and Gaza.
Then why are you supporting
The threat
them?
of the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, has metastasized worldwide.
No, they haven't. They're trying to create as much income as they can
here within the Western Hemisphere.
They're like super
CCP's
capitalists,
aggressiveness
if you
in
would.
operations below the level of armed conflict continues to grow. For example, they have sponsored cyber attacks against United States critical infrastructure.
And we just pulled all our global aid, you know. So China will be happy to fill some gaps there.
CCP. And after 4 years of a catastrophic open border policy and limited and in many cases
For resources
no vetting, we have
and
seen
customer
an explosion
base.
of illegal migrants crossing
Yeah.
our border since 2021. In fiscal year 2024, 516 were identified to be known or suspected terrorists, 106 of whom tried to sneak into our country between ports of entry. And these are just the ones we caught
Oh my God,
of
this
the nearly
totally
3 million
stopped.
encounters
Chat
recorded
totally
by
stopped.
Customs and Border Protection. We've also seen an ISIS-affiliated human smuggling network bringing more than 400 migrants into the United States. and this occurs through networks associated with cartels and gangs from Sinaloa to CJ&G, who present an unacceptable risk to the security of the
Yes,
American
gal.
people. In the midst of such
What
threats,
aircraft
many
were
have
to be
understandably lost
used
trust
gives
in the
away the
intelligence
location of
community.
where they launch
One
from,
reason I'm
because those
particularly
only
concerned
launch
about
from
is
a
the
ship in
pattern
the
of
Red
lapses
Sea,
I've seen in
which there's only
analytic
one,
integrity
and everyone
objectivity
knows
in
where
some
it
of the
is.
assessments provided by the IC in the last few years.
Okay, listen, they
From
really
President Trump Russia
fucking...
collusion fiasco to the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic to
It is
anomalous health
unimaginable
incidents,
negligence.
there have
Thank
been
you.
numerous instances of the
Incompetence.
IC suppressing certain
It
reporting
was
using
top secret
substandard
information
reporting
at the
to support a
time.
pre-decided thesis
2+ tiers
and
into the
failure or
classified
refusal to
system.
consider plausible alternative analyses.
Well,
That,
butterflies.
combined with many
HexF
other
isn't
examples
intelligent
of
enough for an
weaponized government,
intelligence
results in a
hearing.
situation where the United States is facing very real threats, while many of our citizens lack trust in those they empower to inform on or counter these threats. Look, I've been honored
They're
to serve
real
our
good
country for
at
many
this
years
now,
first as an
Teresa.
explosive ordnance disposal
They're
technician
really good
in the
at digging
Army, now
in.
as a representative for the 1st District of Arkansas and chairman of this committee. In my time here, I've traveled the world
I think
and
the
met with countless
calculus is
IC
they're going to
employees,
come
from
out on
everyday
top,
Americans doing challenging
and
and
so
often
they
dangerous
choose
work
to
of
lean into
intelligence
it. I
to
really do. I
agencies,
believe that.
directors like yourselves. The vast majority of those people are honest, hardworking,
These are people
patriotic
that want
Americans
to
that silently and
be
without
somebody,
accolades do
right? All these guys, this
difficult jobs,
douchebag right
often in
here,
austere
he wants
places,
to be
sacrificing
somebody,
time with their
right?
families and in some cases putting themselves in
And
danger,
that becomes
all
more
in order to
important
serve
than
the United
anything,
States.
including their
These
oath to
silent
the
warriors deserve
Constitution.
our gratitude and our respect. They do not deserve to have their reputations besmirched by poor leadership. Unfortunately, in recent years, we've seen instances of politicized, self-serving, dishonest leaders sustaining the reputation of our institutions and patriots.
What are you talking
by
about? Like
abusing
your
the powers
guy?
and sacred trust given to them by the American people.
It's literally your guy.
We have some real work to do. You and your roles as leaders of prestigious organizations and us as members of this committee charged with conducting honest and rigorous oversight must ensure that our institutions
You know what?
work for the
I
American
agree.
people.
Let's just take it
Those that don't
down.
uphold
I
the
agree.
stringent standards of
Revolution.
integrity that the American
Where do I
people
sign up?
expect and deserve must be held accountable. In the instances where trust is breached, those involved must be held accountable. This will help rebuild the trust between the American people and those that serve them in the intelligence community.
You leaving
Today,
would
we need you to be
help
candid
rebuild
about
the
threats
trust,
facing the United States.
frankly.
I have deep concerns that many threats have been downplayed or
It's
not
so
taken
crazy.
seriously enough
This
for
is
some
insane.
time, particularly in the homeland and the Western Hemisphere. I look forward to hearing your assessment. Thank you again to our witnesses for being here today, and with that, I want to yield to the distinguished ranking member, Mr. Himes, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning and welcome to our witnesses. As the chairman said, this hearing is an important opportunity for our committee and the American people to hear directly from the senior leadership of the intelligence community about the threats that our nation faces. I read the unclassified report, and I found a lot of continuity in the IC's assessment about critical threats to our national security compared to last year's assessment. The IC continues to see threats from our principal adversaries, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. I must say, though, that after these last 2 months, I'm worried that the call may be coming from inside the House. This report calls Russia, and I quote, an enduring potential threat to U.S. power, presence, and global interests.
Then why are we friends with them?
As far as I can tell, we're now on Team Kremlin.
Yeah, exactly.
We vote with them and against our allies in the United Nations.
Excuse me.
We humiliate.
We have
President
eyes.
Zelensky in
We
the
can
Oval
see.
Office.
We have ears. We can hear.
The president's chief Russian negotiator, Steve Witkoff,
Stop
is
this
repeating
nonsense.
Russian talking points and participating on a madcap signal chat about an attack on Yemen while inside Russia. USAID is gone.
Never mind that he negotiated on behalf of Ukraine.
Soft power. If I had time, I would ask the generals at this table about what it means to our national security to give up our soft power. We're no longer helping struggling nations in Africa. China, or worse, terrorists, are filling the vacuum. I wonder how many of those African countries will be named in next year's threat assessment. Thanks to DOJ, the men we paid to guard the most vicious ISIS terrorists in the world in Syria walked off the job. You think we'll see their names in this document next year? Elon Musk fired the people who maintain our nuclear weapons. Does that feel like a threat to you? Apparently, all of this mayhem is cheered by the President of the United States and by 20-somethings with laptops and nicknames like Big Balls. But I've been doing this for a long time, and I know that Moscow and Beijing and Tehran and Pyongyang cannot believe their luck. Now we come to learn that people in the most dangerous and sensitive jobs on the planet put extremely specific pre-decisional discussions about a military attack on signal, which could be intercepted by the Russians and the Chinese. Everyone here knows that the Russians or the Chinese could have gotten all of that information, and they could have passed it on to the Houthis, who easily could have repositioned weapons and altered their plans to knock down planes or sink ships. I think that it's by the awesome grace of God that we are not mourning dead pilots right now. The two general officers sitting at the table and the people who work for all of you know that if they had set up and participated in the signal chat, they would be gone. And they know that there's only one response to a mistake of this magnitude. You apologize, you own it, and you stop everything until you can figure out what went wrong and how it might not ever happen again. But that's not what happened. The Secretary of Defense responded with a brutal attack on the reporter who did not ask to be on the signal chain. Yesterday, our former colleague Mike Waltz did the same in the White House and then went on Fox to call Jeff Goldberg a loser. What do you think the people who work for you are seeing and learning from that? Now, except for that last part, almost all of
Cash
the
is so
mayhem
happy he
slowly
wasn't on
eroding
that.
Our safety, our standing, and our security in the world has largely happened outside the IC. If you had a part in that, and I suspect you did, I thank you. I'll say it now and I'll say it again every time we see each other over the next couple of years. You must protect the thousands of patriots.
Yeah, they're trying to
who go
really
work
get
every
Jeffrey.
day
Yeah, it's going to
under
get
you
uglier,
to
I
keep
bet.
us safe. You need to go to work every day thinking about their morale, their well-being, and their protection. I've done intelligence oversight for more than a decade. It's my job to ask you the tough questions and maybe even make you uncomfortable.
Right, easily.
But John, I don't ever walk through your lobby and look at those 140 stars on the wall without choking up over the fact that men and women far better than I will give their lives to keep us safe. There's about a dozen people in this room who know all their stories, and you know and I know that many of the men and women who have stars on that wall died because of bad decisions or poor judgment by their leaders. We've all worked together before, and recent events notwithstanding, we need you to succeed. Your people and our safety requires you to succeed. I really hope you do. But let me say now that if some overcaffeinated 20-year-old succeeds in firing your linguists or your mathematicians or your paramilitary officers, if you shut down some unit because Steve Bannon or Seb Gorka doesn't like it, America will be less safe and people will get hurt. And I and this committee and history will be very unkind.
Ha-cha-cha-cha.
Gentleman yields. Now recognize Director Gabbard to make a statement on behalf of the intelligence community.
Thank you very much, Chairman Crawford and Ranking Member Himes. Members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity for us to be here to present the 2025 Annual Threat Assessment. I'm joined here by my colleagues from the CIA, DIA, FBI, and NSA. Our testimony today offers the collective assessment of the 18 U.S. intelligence elements making up the U.S. intelligence community and draws on the intelligence collection and information available to the IC from open source and private sector and the expertise of our analysts.
It's the same
It
thing she
evaluates
read
what
yesterday.
The IC assesses most threatens our people and our nation's ability to live in a peaceful, free, secure, and prosperous society. As you know very well, we face an increasingly complex threat environment.
Did
that
they
is threatening
pick
us
her
here
for
at
this
home
because she
and our
reads the
interests
best of all
abroad.
of those 5?
I'll begin by focusing on what
wonder.
most immediately and directly threatens the United States and the well-being of the American people. The non-state criminal groups and terrorists putting American lives and livelihood at risk. I'll then move on to focus on the key nation states who have the capability to threaten our security and the interests of the United States. Cartels, gangs, and other
She looks like she
transnational
already
criminal
hates her job.
organizations in our
You know,
part of the
like,
world
oh,
are
I hate
engaging
this
in a wide
job.
array of illicit activity, from
Why can't I
narcotics
be part of the
trafficking
crime
to
syndicate
money
and not have to
laundering,
do this?
smuggling of illegal immigrants, and human trafficking, which endanger the health, welfare, and safety of everyday
He
Americans.
still has to read this. You know
Based
what?
on our
I'm
latest
gonna
reporting available for the year-long
shut up. No one cares. I'm gonna go ahead and keep reading the attack plans. Actually, I'm just gonna talk to you guys. I'm not gonna listen to her. She's giving the same report that she gave yesterday. There's no way. There's just no way. So actually, this I will read this too afterwards because this is actually really. Hold on, let me. Gabby, Gabber Gabberton. Hey, Gabber Gabberson. I want to read this because really this Reorganization Act of 2025, and it was something that they were talking about yesterday, and it was something that I had intended for us to watch, but, you know, other things happened, so we got distracted, or I got distracted. I shouldn't blame that on anyone else but me. But there is an unwinding of not only our global relationships and conventions, but there is an unwinding of what did they call that? They called it cultural liberalism or something. I can't remember now. Forgive me for not knowing the particular, you know, historical title of that. Hold on. God, my chat keeps freezing up here. I apologize. Yeah. It's a pic of him with roaming eyes. Pay attention to the eyeballs in the painting. Wait, which one? Freaky anti-Muslim, very Flynn Hegseth. Is that Laura? No. If you saw Matto, Witkoff brought back a painting Putin had. Oh, that's right. I can't imagine what's in that painting. Can you imagine what's in that painting? Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Neil. I wonder what sort of electronics are buried in that portrait's frame. I mean, come on now. Come on now. Jesus Christ. I can't. I haven't looked at the Putin picture of him yet. Oh, wait. What is she? I want to make sure that we don't miss out. No, she's still talking. She's still yapping. Ah! But eventually I want to read this, the Reorganization Act, which is what I've been talking about. Hi, Carrie. Which is what I've been talking about in terms of them, while we argue about Teslas and other things, not only are they, creating incredible human rights abuses, they are also unwinding and codifying into law the breaking of our administrative state. That's what I've been screaming about, is that in these conversations about the actual bills that are taking specific pieces of what Doggy is doing and putting them into law, that's what they're doing. And it's so boring that no one is paying attention to it. But it's actually so not boring that it's probably one of the main things we should be paying attention to. And I don't know how you stop it. I really don't, because every time something comes up for a vote, it passes and the Senate is rubber stamping. Inugam is, where are you? I actually FOIA that request the chat since it's not classified. I guess I can have a copy of it. So far, no replies expected. Inugam is, I love you. It's so good to see you. Oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever. Oh, one of my oldest friends on social media. It's so good to see you. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that. It's important. It's important for us to do that. I mean, the historical record, even though things may not change in my lifetime, right? We may be on a path right now where we can't really just retract from it and come back. You know? But we got to try, and we've got to put it into the goddamn record. And going back to what Gal was sharing, this erasing FDR, it's also about breaking the social contracts, because again, this is eugenics. This is the strong get the serf jobs, and so there's no room for the weak. I use that term cavalierly, and I don't mean to, but so good to see you, friend. She's still talking. Anyway, so it's just like, God, come on. It's ridiculous. Hey. Another read for the anti-FDR thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll put little
asymmetric attack options.
You are the asymmetric attack.
China's cyber activities have been linked to multiple high-profile breaches.
Yeah, she's got a lot of feelings.
Including last year's massive compromise of U.S. telecom infrastructure, commonly referred to as Salt Typhoon.
I don't know what to do.
Beijing currently dominates.
Have you already talked about Mike Johnson floating the idea of dissolving the federal courts?
For example, with the mining and processing of several critical minerals. In December, China imposed an export ban to the United States.
Well, I know butterflies. I haven't heard that one.
And antimony, all of which are important to the production of semiconductors and our defense technologies. This was in direct response to U.S. export controls on chips designed to broadly limit PRC access to advanced chips and chip-making equipment.
I must have missed that one,
China
butterflies.
also aims to compete in other critical global industries, including AI, legacy semiconductor chip production, biomanufacturing and genetic sequencing, and medical and pharmaceutical supply production. Russia's nuclear and conventional military capabilities, along with its demonstrated economic and military
we could possibly learn the plan.
It a formidable competitor.
Oh my God! I think
Moscow has more nuclear weapons than any other nation.
They're scared. Okay.
Catastrophic damage.
Can we think of it in that way? They're scared.
In the event of a major war that Russian leaders feared put.
They know they're on the wrong side of history, and they're trying to break it as fast as possible.
In late 2024. Russia announced updates.
There are more of us than there are of them.
Expanding the conditions under which Russia would consider using nuclear weapons.
I would miss so much if you were here.
Russia's building a more modern and survivable nuclear force designed to
she's reading the same
US
thing as yesterday.
Defense through reliable retaliatory strike potential.
You'd think if it was your annual assessment, you'd think if it was your annual assessment of threats, you'd be like animated about it, right? You'd be like, this is my big moment. I have to give this really, really important report. I would know that report backwards and forwards. Right? This is just cosplay. Exactly. I'd know enough to ad-lib and not just stare at a page and read. I wouldn't, in fact, I would feel scared to walk in there unprepared. And she seems so unprepared for this. And this is so scary to her. This is not the same bitch that was sitting in front of the Senate confirmation committees. There, she had her script. She doesn't really have a strong script here. And she knows it. And now it's not so much fun. It was funner when, she was running for something or, just new on the job. Now she's not new on the job. Now she's not new on the job, and she's actually let out state secrets. And she is the head of the goddamn intelligence community. She should be the one who is going through the 19 numbers on that signal chat, or 18, because she knows her own, you'd think. Yeah, it is drama class. You're right. She could use a drama class, because this is terrible acting. I'm sorry. I would not give her any part in anything. She would not even be the second shepherd, if you know what I mean. But anyway, my point is that she, as the head of all of the intelligence, and I use that term very loosely, she did not even say, what's this number? What's this number? What's this number? You know what I mean? Like, I would want to know, I would want a report from each of the numbers in the signal chat. Who are you? Number one. Number two, I wouldn't share war plans on a signal chat. I would immediately think to myself, this sounds like a terrible idea. She did avoid hard questions, but she was stumbling, Karen. I think she was a little rattled. That's what I think. I think she was a little rattled. Oh, I know. I missed some of the good hearings from yesterday. Gosh, it was a tough one. Let me open this and open that and open that. OPSEC for activists securing the resistance. Oh, good. The Resistance Sentinel today that Gal just dropped in the link has OPSEC, operational security for activists, securing the resistance under the Trump-Musk oligarchy. Thank you for that. Oh, this is great. That's great. I may or may not have something to do with that article. Yay. Oh, I'm glad. Now I'm looking forward to reading it. Okay. All right. Girl, are you done yet? Come on. Come on, princess. You know what to do.
To their expanded cooperation. Russia's been a
I do like
catalyst
the
for much
vermilion
of this expansion, driven
suit.
heavily by the support it has
That's
needed
like a vermilion.
for its war
They shouldn't have so
against
many
Ukraine,
hearings in a day.
including
I agree.
protection from U.S. and Western sanctions. In
But I
addition
do
to
like this
exchange
kind of
military
vermilion
and other resource
suit
capabilities
color
with
that
North
she's got
Korea,
going
Russia
on.
has
It's real
relied
pretty.
more heavily on
Wait, Lee,
China's
what'd you say? Just
financial
saw
and
that
defensive
Delaware
industry
passed the
backing
billionaire bill. What?
and has increased combined military exercises.
She's not there because of her
with
knowledge.
China.
She's there because of Project
With
2025
Iran, Russia has
exchange
also
capable.
expanded
Yep.
financial ties to mitigate
Yes.
sanctions.
Oh, she is
Iran
so
has become a critical
loyal.
military supplier to Russia,
She's so
especially
loyal.
of UAVs,
Princess
in exchange for
Toenail
Russian
Muncher.
technical support for Iranian weapons, intelligence, and advanced cyber
You need the links after
capabilities.
this lounge? No problem.
The
No
threats that we
problem,
see
girly
to the
girl.
U.S. to U.S. national
Is that
security are
Elon's
both
payday?
complex
What?
and multifaceted.
Tangerine? It's vermilion.
In
Okay,
closing,
I'm going to
I wanna
argue with
address
you.
briefly the
It's a
signal
deep
chat issue that I know
tangerine
many of
on
you
my
are concerned
screen.
about. The president and
I
National
don't know about
Security
your
Advisor
screen.
Waltz held a press
It
conference
looks pretty dark.
yesterday
Like,
with a
yeah,
clear
see, I can
message.
see where on the
It was
replay
a
it looks
mistake that a
lighter,
reporter was
but on
inadvertently
my
added to
screen
a
it
signal
looks like
chat with
vermilion.
high-level national security
It's
principles,
washing out a little
having
bit in the
policy
color, which is
discussion
interesting.
about imminent strikes against the Houthis
Wonder why it's
and
washing
the
out.
effects of the strike.
Blur, blur.
National Security Advisor has taken full responsibility for this, and the National Security
And we've
Council
thrown the
is conducting an
Secretary of
in-depth
Defense
review,
under the bus.
along with technical
It's not too
experts
burnt, though.
working to determine
Not too
how
burnt.
this reporter was
Pretty bright.
inadvertently added to this chat. The conversation was candid and sensitive, but as the President
Oh
and
my
National
God,
Security
Jane,
Advisor stated,
I can
no
totally see what
classified
you're saying right
information
now.
was shared. There were no sources, methods, locations, or war plans that were shared. This was a standard update to the National
Don't you hate that,
Security
Iggy?
Cabinet that was provided alongside updates that were given to foreign partners in the region. The Signal Message app comes pre-installed on government devices.
What?
December of 2024, CISA stated, quote, "We strongly urge highly targeted individuals to immediately review and apply best practices provided in the guidance to protect mobile communications, including consistent use of end-to-end encryption." And they named Signal as an app as an example of such an end-to-end encrypted messaging app. Ideally, these conversations occur in person. However, at times, fast-moving coordination of an unclassified nature
You
is
said you could wait a
necessary
month to
where
do it.
in-person conversation is not an option.
Oh, this is wrong. This is
I'm
wrong.
also aware that a lawsuit was filed yesterday on this issue. As a result of that pending litigation,
Oh,
I'm
bullshit.
limited in my ability to comment further
Oh,
on that
you
specific
fucking
case.
cunt.
My
You
Office of General
fucking
Counsel will be
cunt.
in close contact with the Department of Justice on this matter.
Oh, your
The most
your
important
girlfriend,
thing to the American
the one who
people
paints your
and to all of
toenails
us
that you then
is
eat.
the success of this military operation.
Your
against
girlfriend is
terrorists
gonna
who have
investigate
been
you?
and continue
Okay.
to attack American service members.
Oh my God.
Was extremely
What
successful.
kind of world
thanks to
is
the leadership
this?
of President Trump and the actions
I love
of our
Despre
brave
too.
men
Oh my
and women
God.
in uniform. As the heads of America,
There was
the
a
American
lawsuit.
people's intelligence community, We will continue to provide the
can't
President,
remember who
you,
filed
and
it.
Congress, and our warfighters with timely, unbiased,
Wow,
relevant
you have some big balls,
intelligence
lady.
to keep our country secure, free, prosperous, and at peace. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Gabbard. We now turn to member questions. I'll recognize myself for 5 minutes. I want to talk about, before I get into the threats, I want to talk about something we've talked about in this committee and in this setting before. We've had IC agency leaders commit to complying with our document requests but not follow through. And I don't know if this is due to direction from previous administration or middle management obstruction, but I find it completely unacceptable. In fact, I had to subpoena the NSA in order to cooperate with our AHI investigation last year. As you all know, it's the charge of this committee to conduct rigorous oversight, and part of that oversight is to occasionally requires us that we request documents from your organizations to enable our investigations. We cannot adequately do our jobs.
There's the
without
lawsuit
your
info.
partnership and your cooperation. General Hawk and General
Thank
Cruz,
you, Lee.
we had
It
this
was American
conversation
oversight.
here before last year, and I'm not satisfied with your responsiveness. Therefore, I'm going to ask that question again on the record in this open setting to each of you. Do I have your unequivocal commitment to cooperating with document or other information requests from this committee, General Hawk?
You do, Chairman.
Thank you, General.
The dumbest
Director
thing
Patel.
ever.
You do, Mr. Chairman.
Director
Oh my
Gabbard.
God, his tie's a little tighter
Chairman.
today.
Director Ratcliffe.
Yes, you do, Chairman and Ranking Member. And I want to start by saying it's good to be back. It's good to see you. And as you all know, I have a special appreciation for the work that this committee does.
Easy to do,
having
Gal. I
previously
love
been
them
a
both.
member. I also
Crew
understand
and
the importance
oversight.
of the oversight role that it has. And so you have my full commitment and my understanding about what your responsibilities are and my obligation to keep you fully and currently informed, and I will do that.
Appreciate that. General Cruz.
Chairman, of course, you have our continued
Thank you,
support,
Karen.
on this
There's no
critical
universal
effort.
policy.
Thank you. I
Some
appreciate
government
that. I
agencies
wanna turn
have
now to,
adopted it
something
as
that's
part
a
of their
topic
standard operating.
conversation
Oh,
and
interesting.
really needs to be, and that's our own neighborhood here in our Western Hemisphere. I mentioned in my opening statement, I'm deeply concerned about encroachment in the Western Hemisphere, not just by China, but other adversaries like Russia and Iran, from Russian military cooperation with and support to
Then why did we
Venezuela,
vote with them?
Nicaragua, CCP-linked companies, acquisition of critical assets in Central and South America, Iran's defense agreement with Bolivia, the establishment of a technical military cooperation commission including Venezuela, Cuba, China, Russia, and Iran. And I could list several more alarming examples. I'm afraid we've
You mean the
focused
people
so
we
much of our
voted with at
attention
the
across
UN?
the world that we've lost sight of our own neighborhood, leading to the anti-American regimes gaining permanent footholds within striking distance of the homeland. So, Director Gabbard, to the extent that you can discuss it in this setting, what is the intelligence
haven't you heard,
community's
Mr. Crawford?
assessment
Those are our
of
friends now.
adversary encroachment in the Western
We're getting
Hemisphere?
soft tacos later.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll be able to go into greater detail in the closed session, but the intelligence community assessment reflects what you have just detailed and outlined. The continued competition, encroachment, and investments that are occurring in the Western Hemisphere have rapidly increased and continue to pose a threat both
Hi,
to our
Tom.
economic interests and to our security.
Oh, excellent.
Every day there are new
Thank you.
reports of further
Tai Chi
attempts.
lesson in Discord.
One just recently that came up yesterday with investments that are being made in the southeast part of the United States. Again, I'll go into this further in a closed setting, but the intelligence assessments
They're
that
moving
we are
them to
receiving
Atlanta.
are being shared with senior cabinet officials, Department of Energy, Commerce, Treasury, those who are working alongside us to not only monitor, but to determine the best policies that will protect our interests.
Thank you. I want to turn to Director Patel real quick in the time that I have left. If you can flesh this out for me just a little bit. You indicated something that caught my attention in the proceeding yesterday, and that was your involvement with the Judicial Drug Task Force that you partner with at the state level, and how that
I
has
arrested
yielded
7
positive results with
people
regard to,
yesterday in
cartel
Akron.
activity. Can you put a little finer point on that to describe those partnerships in the 53 seconds we have remaining?
Yeah,
I'll try to
I
be brief,
arrested
Mr. Chairman,
7
Mr. Vice
people
Chairman.
in
Thanks for having us,
Akron.
Ranking Member. My priorities at the FBI have been to partner with state and local law enforcement in ways that we have not done so before, particularly on information sharing, and it's a two-way street. And in order for us to effectuate drug seizures and narcotics interdictions in the 50 states, we treat them as all border states, because that's what's happening. We have an American citizen die of a drug overdose
doesn't mean
every 7
anything.
minutes. That is wildly out of control.
That
and
doesn't mean
unacceptable.
anything.
The FBI cannot do that mandate and secure the American people from Washington, D.C. So we're putting resources in the field. We are working with our partners at the state and local level, and we are seeing immediate
a little
results,
sniff.
as we are seeing in Arkansas, as I outlined yesterday, with hundreds of arrests, thousands of pounds of narcotics seized.
Yes,
dozens of
hundreds,
weapons,
dozens
and
of
multiple
pounds.
indictments.
Thank you,
Dozens
Director. I'm going
of
to
pounds.
yield and recognize Ranking Member Himes for 5 minutes.
I
Thank
arrested
you, Mr.
7
Chairman.
people in Akron.
There's something I care as much about as the national security of the United States. It's the powers and prerogatives of this Congress and its oversight duties. So I want to spend a minute or so on yesterday's testimony in front of the Senate and direct these questions in particular to Director Patel and Director Gabbard. Yesterday, Senator Heinrich asked, did this conversation, referring to the signal chat, include information on weapons, packages, targets, or timing? Director
He
Patel,
seems like
you
a
said,
Bugsy.
not that I'm aware of. Director Gabbard,
Yeah.
you said same answer. This morning we learned that the signal chat included the following update, forward-looking update from the Secretary of Defense. Time now, 11:44 Eastern Time. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are go for mission launch. 12:15 Eastern Time. F-18 launch. First strike package. 13:45 trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch. MQ-9s. 14:10 more F-18s launch. Second strike package. Do either of the directors want to reflect on their testimony yesterday in the context of what I just read?
Sure. 1, I was not on that signal chat. 2, I have not reviewed it. And 3,
Yet?
you just indicated that was made public this morning.
But Director, you didn't prior to yesterday's Senate. You were on this. You were on the signal chat, correct?
No.
No,
Okay, but did you review the material on?
he hasn't reviewed any
No, I
material.
wasn't on it.
Director Gabbard.
Oh my God.
Yes, Ranking Member. My answer yesterday was based on my recollection, or the lack thereof, on the details that were posted there. I was not, and what was shared today reflects the fact that I was not directly involved with that part of the signal chat, and replied at the end reflecting.
So you don't read
the
your signal
effects,
chats about really
very
important
brief
missions?
effects that the National Security Advisor had shared.
So it's your testimony that less than 2 weeks ago, you were on a signal chat that had all of this information about F-18s and MQ-9 Reapers and targets on strike, and you in that 2-week period simply forgot that that was there. That's your testimony?
My testimony is I did not recall the exact details of what was included there.
That was not your testimony. Your testimony was that you were not aware of anything related to weapons packages, targets, and timing.
As the testimony yesterday continued on, there were further questions related to that, where I acknowledged that there was conversation about weapons, and I don't remember the exact wording that I used, but I did not recall the specific details that were included.
Director Gabbard, you've reasserted that there was no classified information. I think we can all agree that that information shouldn't have been out there. But let me ask you this. Are you familiar with the ODNI's classification guidance?
I'm familiar with
I've actually
it.
got a copy right here. If I read you a
Oh, she's
part
probably
of
not really
that
good at her
guidance, I wonder
job.
if you could tell me what the level of classification indicated is. I'm reading from your classification guidance. And the criteria is information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing an attack. Do you recall what your own guidance would suggest that that be classified?
I don't have the specifics in front of me, but it would point to what was shared would fall under the DoD's classification system and the Secretary of Defense's authority
let me
to
help you, because
determine
there's a
what is
very clear
classified
answer.
and what is not.
You don't, I guess you don't have it, but information providing, this is the ODNI guidance, information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing an attack should be classified as top secret. Do you disagree with that?
I don't disagree with that. I just point out that the DoD classification guidance is
Different?
separate from the ODNI's classification
Oh.
guidance.
Do you think it would be
and
materially
Really?
different?
Ultimately,
Really?
the Secretary of Defense holds the authority to
Oh, so you're throwing him
classify or
under the bus?
declassify.
Okay.
Do you think it's likely that DoD guidance is materially different from what I just read?
I haven't reviewed the DoD guidance, so I can't comment.
Yeah, probably MAGA cabinet heads have reviewed all the policy memos.
Director Gabbard, a lot of this suggests sort of a lack of sobriety.
She needs to resign.
There's punch emojis and fire emojis. It's a lack of sobriety. I don't mean that literally. But I have one last question for you, because I think people really listen to what you have to say. You, on March 15th, as DNI, retweeted a post from Ian Miles Chong, who is listed on RT, that's Russia Today's website, as, quote, a political and cultural commentator who has contributed content to RT since at least 2022. Director Gabbard, do you think that it's responsible for you as head of the intelligence community and the principal presidential intelligence advisor to retweet posts from individuals affiliated with Russian state media?
That retweet came from my personal account, and I would have to go back to look at the substance
Oh, really?
of the tweet.
Can I, just so that we don't have a lack of confusion amongst our allies and enemies and us, can I act perhaps that you not think that you should be saying one thing on your personal account than you say officially?
I maintain my First Amendment rights to be able to express my own personal views on different issues.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman
Wow,
yields and
that
recognizes
cunt.
Distinguished Vice Chairman General Kelly.
I wish I lived
Yeah,
in D.C.
now,
I really
for the first
do.
30 seconds, Mr. Ratcliffe, or Director Ratcliffe, formerly known as Texas, from this Mississippi guy, I'd like to give you 30 seconds if you have anything to respond to what Ms. Gabbard just, Director Gabbard, I'm sorry, just said.
Well, Mississippi, it's good to see you again, and I appreciate the opportunity. You know, there's so much talk about this Atlantic article and about things that were said and that could have happened instead of a focus on what did happen. So my responsibility as CIA director, one of its responsibilities is to kill
all the
terrorists.
CIA
And
agents,
that's
you're not
exactly what
safe.
I did
Okay,
along
CIA,
with President
warning,
Trump's
CIA
excellent
agents,
national
you are not
security
safe.
team. That's
You are
what
not
we should be
safe,
focused on.
because for your
With regard to
boss,
that article,
the end
I also
justifies the
would appreciate
means,
opportunity,
and you are expendable.
to relay the fact that
That's what your
yesterday
boss
I spent
just
4
told
hours
you.
answering questions from senators as a result of that article that were intimating that I transmitted classified information because there were hidden messages. Those messages were revealed today and revealed that I did not transmit classified information.
But you didn't ask
and
who
that
the other
reporter,
18
who I
people
don't
were in
know,
that chat?
I think intentionally intended it to indicate that. That reporter
You didn't ask
also
who JG
indicated,
was?
that I had released the name of an undercover CIA operative in that signal chat. In fact, I had released the name of my chief of staff, who is not operating undercover.
Okay,
That
lucky
was
for him.
deliberately false and misleading. And I appreciate the opportunity to reflect that my answers haven't changed. I used an appropriate
is so
channel
nervous.
to communicate sensitive information.
He is
It
so
was permissible
nervous.
to do so. I didn't transfer any classified information.
He is so nervous.
And
he
at
is
the end of the
covering
day,
his ass.
what is most important is that the mission was a remarkable success. Is
Oh,
what everyone
CIA,
should be focused
you
on
guys
here,
should walk off
because
the
that's
job
what
right
did
now.
happen, not
Right
what
the fuck
possibly
now.
could have happened.
You're not
Thank
safe.
you, Director.
Your boss is not going to keep you safe.
Director Patel, thank you for the great job that you've done. So, first of all, your coordination and trying to comply with the letter that was sent last year and the year before asking for the baseball shooting, of which what I got was basically what happened on the field, and
Are
I was
you
there,
kidding?
so I don't need to know that. Although
you
no
kidding
one from
me
the
right
FBI
now?
ever talked to me about what happened. They talked to people who were not there.
Are you kidding
But
me?
I appreciate your commitment to getting us the full
Are you kidding me
unredacted
right now?
report or the redactions, or to protect innocent people who are not part of the process, not the people who made decisions to classify that as suicide
What?
by a
Yeah,
cop as opposed to an
2017.
assassination attempt
Almost
of
10
many
years
members
ago.
of Congress, of which I was one.
Where are we?
Thank
What's
you for
happening
your
right now?
commitment,
Whoever
Director Patel,
represents,
because I
hey,
know that
Mr.
you will give
Kelly's
us what we have
constituents,
asked for
you're
so that we
fucked.
can put this to rest.
Okay, Mr. Kelly doesn't give a
myself,
shit
and
about the
several
price of
others.
your eggs.
Can I get your commitment to do that, Director
That's
Patel?
okay. So
In
that's
fact, I
actually
just got an
literally
update,
what Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Vice Chairman, from my team, you'll have all of those materials to you and your committee by the close of business today or at the latest tomorrow morning.
With the
And just
Epstein files?
Really quickly, Director Ratcliffe, and
Do you have to
and
re-
I
do you have to
don't wanna go over
redact
time. I
those?
think it's so important for everybody to have their time. Can you tell me the
Oh my
impact
God.
that Doge has had in
You
causing you
should
to
wipe
fire
your
people
chin,
you
sir.
shouldn't have fired,
That's
or
what you
release
should do.
people who are instruments of national security are no longer there? Tell me if you've had any impact specifically that Doge has caused you to lose someone who was necessary for national security.
Given the fact that as of this date, no one from Doge has been on the CIA campus. And
Yeah,
I've had no
so,
direct
no, they haven't
communication
impacted
with
us.
Doge, other than conversations with Elon Musk at cabinet meetings. I would say the impact is zero.
Director Patel?
Because they're.
I'm in a similar situation.
I cannot
we
do
work
this.
with Doge
I
on
cannot do
government
this.
efficiencies, but I have not seen any negative impacts. at
The
FBI.
American public is
Thank you
so
very much.
dumb.
And, Director Gabbard, it's good to see you again.
God, we're
too.
dumb.
You know, I think we were freshmen together, you and I.
Yeah,
and
it's always
Director
been
Ratcliffe, and I'm here, and you
statistical
guys are,
indoctrination.
there. Have you seen
Hashtag
any impact
flag.
across the whole IC that Doge has caused things that you can't respond to?
Yeah, thank you, Congressman. It's great to see you all again here. The answer
Really
is
enjoyed our
no.
drinks last night.
Similar with Director Ratcliffe, Doge has not been.
Isn't
at
it interesting
ODNI.
that Doge
The
hasn't been at
president
any of your
understands the
agencies?
essential national
Isn't that
security mission
interesting?
that we have.
Do you think that's
And we are
interesting?
going through our own internal assessments.
Do you think that's interesting?
To ensure we're achieving the effects in an efficient way that is responsible
anybody-
to the American
Hello, anybody?
taxpayer.
Is it
Yield
me?
back, Mr. Chairman.
Am I the
Gentleman yields,
drama?
Mr. Carson.
Am I the drama?
Thank you, Chairman, to the witnesses, many of whom I've worked with in the past. It appears that this year's report omitted any discussion of transnational concerns like global health security, infectious diseases, and the role of conflict, violence, and political instability play as drivers of migration. Coupled with the administration's cuts to USAID and other international assistance, particularly health and humanitarian assistance, won't these reductions and eliminations increase regional instability and volatility in areas already at high risk for threats? Was the IC consulted at all in the decisions to eliminate such critical funding, and why weren't these risks included in this year's report?
Thank you for the question, Congressman.
Thank you,
The
SB.
direction that I gave to our National Intelligence Council as
These
they
people
were
are craven.
putting together the annual threat
They
assessment
are the
was
bad
to
guys.
focus
No
on the
Hollywood
most
movie could
direct
do
and
these people
extreme threats
justice.
that we face from
No Hollywood writer
non-state,
could write
and
this.
state actors. Well, I acknowledge the factors that you've mentioned.
There's just too many of them. There's too many
Create an
protagonists.
environment
Or
that our
antagonists. There's too many
operators and
antagonists.
intelligence officials need to be aware
Literally,
of.
you'd have to do
This year's
17
annual threat
movies.
assessment was really more targeted to focus on the direct threats that we have the ability to affect and impact.
the
Some
chat
of
was
those were
illegal to
included
begin with.
here
They all
that you
need to go.
mentioned,
Exactly.
With regard to the effects and impacts
Yes, there was,
of
Tom. I put a link
USAID,
up above if you
that
can find it.
assessment has not yet been done, or at least to my knowledge, and was not considered to be
I said it
included here.
5 years ago. It's writing itself.
Director Patel, this year's assessment, sir, confirms a threat I've worked on for a number of years, domestic extremists, including lone wolves, white nationalists.
I'll drop it
motivated
again
by
in case it's
racial
missing.
Or anti-government grievances, even religious grievances. Mr. Director, a few yes or no questions. Do you, sir, agree that these domestic threats must be addressed as thoroughly as foreign extremists?
All threats like that will be treated equally, yes, sir.
Is it true, sir, you moved personnel out of the FBI section responsible for countering domestic violent extremists?
I don't believe
There
I
it
did
is.
that.
Is it true, sir, that you've discussed disbanding this section?
I don't believe I've done that.
Will you pledge
don't
today, sir,
believe.
not to disband this critical section?
I will pledge to you today that any personnel matters that are being worked on currently, once finalized, the congressional notification will be published to your committee.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The gentleman yields. Now recognize the gentleman from Illinois, the former federal prosecutor, Mr. LaHood.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank all of our witnesses today for your service to our country. And I want to focus my questions this morning on FISA Section 702. And Director Radcliffe, welcome back to the committee. In your confirmation hearing before the Senate, you were asked extensively about FISA and Section 702, and I think laid out a compelling narrative on how, as you described it, quote, how indispensable it is to national security. And you were also asked about a warrant requirement on Section 702.
How else can we say I don't recall?
And your answer to that was, quote, on whether a warrant makes sense on 702, your quote was, the answer
then I
is
got
no.
high.
We're talking about national security issues where sometimes minutes matter in the ability to disrupt or interdict the bad actors or to act upon the intelligence that you can gain.
I need
from
one of
that,
those little
unquote.
videos of them
Director,
sitting
I
at
wanted to
the
ask you, is that
table
still your belief today regarding
and
the
then
warrant
doing, yeah, ring, 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 your espionage phone is ringing.
Congressman, it absolutely.
Wait a minute, I have to add this
you've
rando.
accurately,
Hold on.
reflected my prior testimony. It
Rando
is also
added.
my testimony that 702 is indispensable
Hey, Al, how you
to
doing?
our intelligence picture.
I'm telling
and
you
the
right
loss
now.
of it would be catastrophic
It's
to
crazy.
CIA. And the
Putting in
reason that I
Discord.
say that
Excellent, thank
from
you.
this position is not only is 50% of
Too funny.
all of our critical
I mean, it's not
analysis
funny.
provided
There's
to
nothing
the
funny
President as
about it,
Commander-in-Chief
actually.
in the President's daily brief, 702 derived, 70% of CIA's success with regard to advanced weapons counterproliferation is
read.
the result of 702 collected information. And finally, 90% of CIA's successful
He always does that.
interdictions with regard to synthetic drugs like fentanyl, are the result
Ding,
of
ding,
702
ding.
collection. It's absolutely indispensable to the work that CIA does, and I'm glad that you gave me the opportunity to reflect that to this committee.
Thank you, Director. And
Thank you
just
for
to,
that layup,
ask a
Senator. I
follow-up
mean,
on that.
Congressman.
As you know, in the House last year, when we had our FISA reform and Section 702 reform measures
Lie
put in place,
after lie.
you know, we
after
had
lie,
a debate,
after lie.
robust debate
No,
on the
it's
House
just like
floor regarding
puff
the
after
warrant
puff.
requirement. It
I'm
was a very,
pumping
very
you
close
up.
vote, 212 to
Bend over.
212.
I'm going to pump you up.
Director
Okay,
Radcliffe,
I'm pumping you
what
up.
can you tell our members to alleviate and reassure them on, again, the harm that a warrant requirement would do
I
to
just
702?
can't. I don't even care. Nutlick had
Congressman,
disbanded
it would
advisory panels on
impose
supply chain competitiveness and
de facto
renewable.
ban
What?
on lawfully querying previously
I don't even
collected
care.
data to find threats against you.
I'm not listening to this questioning. I don't care about FISA warrants. I just don't. They're not going to issue any warrants unless it's to people that are trying to, go against them. So fuck them and their fucking FISA warrants. Yeah, Nutlick, what did Nutlick do? Nutlick disbanded advisory panels on supply chain competitiveness and renewable energy exports as unnecessary. I'm not laughing because it's just not funny. Okay. I mean, please come to the show on Friday because we're really going to talk through and learn together about what some of these assholes behind the scenes, like Nutlicker, are doing. Oh, you heard that a forever city? I think I've heard that too for Greenland. Yeah. I think we need to talk about like all these little moves that are being made, and kind of what lay ahead. What lies ahead, which, no one knows, but yeah, the only makes sense if you want to tank the economy. And that actually is really getting much more clear that that's what it's going to come down to. Supply chain competitiveness. So that means that you wouldn't have like bid processes or other things. That means you can just give contracts to whomever you want. That's right. And you can pick the most convenient supply chain. You don't have to pick a clean supply chain or someone who's trying to have a clean supply chain. You can just take any old goddamn dirty, fucking full of slavery and trafficking supply chain you want. Make slavery great again, I guess. This is ridiculous. And this guy? Doodle brain? This doodle brain? This goobertronic over here? This guy? Whoops. Oh, the eyes got small because we had people like all over the map yesterday. Okay, there we go. This douche whistle? This used tissue? He's a fucking criminal. He's a fucking criminal. And he probably, with his little Barbie friend, Pam Bondi, Ava Braun, with a law degree, they're probably going to wreak a whole lot of havoc on individuals' lives. Right now, he's busy cosplaying as, a drug lord. I got 7 people in Akron and 10 pounds of fentanyl. It is Idiocracy 2.0, 3.0, for Christ's sake. They jumped a version.
I don't know all those ideas. I don't have all those
You
answers,
don't know
but
anything.
You have my commitment that we will use it appropriately going forward.
Thank you, Director. I yield
It's all
back.
the
Gentleman
FISA
yields,
shit.
Mr.
Nobody
Castro.
gives a fuck.
Thank you, Chairman. Tulsi, you and I came into the Congress together in 2013. And Cash, you and I was serving on the Intelligence Committee when you worked on the Intelligence Committee. And John, you and I are both from Texas, and we both served together on the Intelligence Committee.
You want some extra
the idea that this
Brondo.
information
The thirst
that was presented to our
eliminator.
committee would not be classified, y'all know is a lie. That's ridiculous.
Do it, girl.
I've seen things much less sensitive be presented to us with high classification. And to say that it isn't is a lie to the country. I want to ask the generals now. The NSA is principally in charge of intercepting things like signals intelligence from other countries. General, I want to ask you, if your organization, your agency, intercepted something like this from Russia or China or some other country, would you consider this classified information?
Representative, we would be classifying based off of our sources and methods. So those would be the things that, in terms of how we process, how we would be able to obtain the information, and
General,
how we
can you
report it,
read?
we would classify based off of our source and method.
So if you knew that the Secretary of Defense and the National Security Advisor of Russia or China and the head of the Foreign Ministry and all of the folks who were associated with that signal chain, if you intercepted that information, General, would you consider it classified?
So it would be classified based off of our collection.
Thank you.
So the NSA would classify it, would
Based off
determine it as
of
classified.
Yeah, it's
the
okay,
protection of
General. You
our
can
own
say the
source and
truth.
method, not necessarily based off the content, but how we collected that information.
But it would be classified.
Well, we certainly wouldn't be collecting on a U.S. person conversation.
No, I understand. I'm saying if we...
Okay,
but if
listen.
you did your
I know,
job
the
and
dance
collected
is
it from,
beautiful.
the
Your
Russian
point shoes
Foreign
are
Ministry and the National Security Advisor and
Stunning.
the Secretary of Defense and the President's Chief Advisor, there is no way, having sat on this committee for 9 years, that somebody would come in with that information.
Oh, I agree,
and
Jim
give us something
Dish.
that says,
Is that, am I saying that
unclassified,
right,
you can
Jim
walk
Dish?
out of this
I
room
agree.
with this information
What other
and give
conversations
it
are
to
out there,
whomever you
Jim?
want.
Huh? What other conversations?
With all respect, you and I worked on the committee at the same time. Tulsi, you and I came in together. I've never had an issue of beef with you. John, you and I are both from Texas. Y'all know that's a lie. It's a lie to the country. I want to ask about the Alien Enemies Act really quick while I have time. The President has used the Alien Enemies Act, a wartime authority last used to detain German and Japanese nationals during World War II, to summarily deport people accused of being members of the Venezuelan gang, Tren de Agua. To invoke this law, the President must demonstrate that the United States is under invasion by a foreign nation or government. They have alleged that we are under invasion by the Venezuelan government. The idea that we are at war with Venezuela would come as a surprise to most Americans. The unclassified version of the annual threat assessment the intelligence community just released makes no mention of any invasion or war that we are fighting with the nation of Venezuela. You would think our nation being at war would merit at least a small reference in this threat assessment. And Director Ratcliffe, does the intelligence community assess that we are currently at war or being invaded by the nation of Venezuela?
We have no assessment that says that.
Thank you. In invoking the law, the president alleged that Tren de Agua is, quote, undertaking hostile actions against the U.S.
They answer like they don't even work there, you know? Like I don't even work here. I don't know.
In Venezuela.
I've never seen that.
Director Gabbard, does the intelligence community assess that the Venezuelan government
I'm
is
the head of the whole
directing
IC, but
Tren de
I've not
Agua's
read
hostile
that.
actions against the United States?
There are varied assessments that came from different intelligence community elements. I'll defer to Director Patel to speak specifically to the FBI assessment.
Hi, Paulina.
But let me ask you, so you're saying there are conflicting assessments that have come from the IC?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. We'll take it up in closed session. All right.
Holy fuck.
You know, your threat
These guys are
assessment
falling apart.
makes issue of
She's breaking. This fembot is
fentanyl
breaking.
trafficking as a top
Okay.
throughout the United States.
Her
Yet
boobs are
support for
about
law
to
enforcement
shoot out
cooperation with Mexico
fire,
has
just
been
like
put
on that
hold,
movie.
And there's been a threat of invasion to Mexico by the United States. You assess that Russia's advanced cyber capabilities make it a persistent counterintelligence cyber
Yes.
threat, yet the administration shut down the
Cruella
unit at the
de Vil.
Cybersecurity Infrastructure Agency tasked with stopping Russian cyber attacks. There's so many other ways that the actions of this
I
administration
know. Amazing,
have
isn't it,
contradicted
Jim?
this
It's
threat
amazing to
assessment,
think that this is where
and
we find
the administration
ourselves,
is
but
making
here
the
we
world
are.
and the United States more dangerous. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. Gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Chairman Crawford. Thank you to all of our witnesses for being here. I look forward to working
See you
with each and
later,
every one of you to keep our
Iggy.
country and our planet safe. I wanted to carry on the topic of Section 702 reauthorization. Representative LaHood and I did a lot of work on this over the past 2 years. As you all know, last Congress, this committee worked in a bipartisan manner to advance the reauthorization of what most of us, if not all, deem to be our country's single most important national security tool. The result was what was titled the Reforming Intelligence
I hope they
and
give you
Securing
laughing
America Act,
gas.
which not only reauthorized Section 702, but
Ukraine
equally
has their
important and
first
provided
satellite,
necessary
Tom?
reforms
We
to our
watched the
intelligence
best movie
community
last
in an
night.
effort to address past abuses. This was the largest single reform
well,
of the FBI and the IC.
Hold my
in a
beer, Mr.
generation,
Fitzpatrick. Have you
making
heard about
sure
the
that there
latest
are
abuse? It
appropriate
happened like
compliance guardrails
24 hours ago.
that enhance accountability while still protecting the critical tools
Hello.
necessary for our nation's security. Just to name a few. In 2009,
Who is this mealy
Section
mouth
702 protected our
mold
nation
bug?
from an attack by an al-Qaeda member who intended to detonate explosives in the Manhattan subway lines. In 2014,
He's giving me
Section 702
vibes.
helped prevent attacks by assisting in the
Oops, oh,
removal
damn.
of ISIS leader Haji Imam. In 2022, Section 702 contributed to the U.S. government's operation against the last remaining 9/11 architect, Ayman al-Zawahiri. And as we saw,
I'm going to replay
in
it,
the
Tom. It's
horrendous
so good.
attacks of October 7th, an
It's so
attack on
good.
the people of Israel, where Hamas killed over 1,200 innocent,
I'll talk about it
innocent
at a
civilians.
break or something.
Intelligence collection is essential to the
Aw,
safety and
Droopy.
security
What's the matter, Droopy?
population.
He looks
We must
like, you know,
never,
oh, do you
ever see
remember
another
Master
attack like
of
9/11,
Disguise
especially
with
as a
Dana
result of
Carvey? He looks like
self-inflicted
Dana
intelligence
Carvey in that
failure.
suit where his
Not
shoulders are
reauthorizing
too
the
big.
use of this authority in this coming year would intentionally
Looks
and
like Dana
willingly put the
Carvey.
United States at a disadvantage
Master of Disguise.
against actors who seek our destruction. Representative LaHood touched on the warrant requirement.
Which
as you all
was
know,
a very
that is really
problematic
the linchpin
one.
here. And I think it's abundantly clear for members of this committee, members of this Congress, and for members of our intelligence committee to understand that a warrant requirement is on the collection of data. A warrant requirement cannot
was
apply
like
to the
inviting
querying of already lawfully collected
accidentally
data.
inviting Grandpa to
Follow
his own
that theory
surprise
to its
birthday
logical extreme
party.
would be to say that a police department who has an evidence
Oh
locker
my
containing
God.
lawfully collected data
Well, Jesse would
has
say
to get
that.
a warrant to re-enter that evidence locker. It'd be akin to say to a police officer they cannot run a license plate, which is querying off of lawfully collected Department of Transportation data without getting a warrant. It would shut down the courts. It would shut down law enforcement. It would make our country much less safe. So I want to ask Director Patel, Director Radcliffe, I want to yield the floor to you as we will be working with all of you, particularly your two agencies on reauthorization, to share your thoughts.
So it's great to see you, sir, and thanks for the question. Look, on 702, just to flesh
Wow,
out
they
some of the more
really want to
specific
talk about
operational,
FISA.
use that I have it with specifically relates to what you just said. When I was a terrorism prosecutor, we used 702 directly to prevent the shopping mall in Houston from being blown up. We used 702 collection directly to prevent an attack on the state
Didn't he
capitol in the
fuck
state
up one of those
California.
things,
And
one of those
individuals were
missions?
prosecuted and are currently in prison.
Is that for one
And
sitting behind him
balancing
too?
that awesome responsibility
know.
with the constitutional protections
Yeah,
that
I don't
every
know what's
American should
going
have,
on
and we're talking
behind
about
him.
U.S. person specifically.
They look like
is
they
something that
are
I
on
keep
the
in mind
studio
every
tour.
single decision
You know,
surrounding
like,
702.
okay, just sit here,
As
just sit
Director
here.
Ratcliffe stated, and as
There's no
in my
room in the other
experience,
places. Just sit here.
while I understand and appreciate the concerns for the
I
warrant
don't think you
requirement based on
understand
US
much.
persons, if there is a solution that allows that to happen in
No,
real
Cash
time,
is really
then
just a
we can have that
flim-flam guy,
discussion. But I
and
have
he's a
not
Flynn.
encountered one, and thus it obviates the need in my perspective, in my mission set to protect the American people and hunt down criminals in its application. So
I
where
arrested
it is now
7
with the
people in
reforms y'all have
Akron.
implemented, we've done a great
Look at my
job in protecting
vest.
American civil liberties, and I'm always open to, and I do
I
believe
don't
we can do
know.
some more.
I'm here to protect American civil liberties. I don't know what they are, but whatevs.
Good to see you again, Congressman. I agree with
Look at my
Director Pell's
vest.
comments with regard to that. I'll start out by saying, obviously, in this role, I'm not a
Are we
policymaker.
going to do this? Are we going to
but at
filibuster
the appropriate
basically with
time, when
702
this comes up
nonsense?
for renewal,
Is
I
that what
think
we're
I made it
doing?
clear, and will make it clear from the CIA's
Is that-
perspective, the
Is that what I'm understanding?
indispensability of 702 as a tool to providing the commander-in-chief
There
an
are other
accurate,
things happening.
picture of the threat environment.
There's a doggy
You
hearing
mentioned some
about PBS and
examples of
NPR.
702 success.
There's also a hearing
When
on
we get into
the
classified,
Consumer Finance Protection
session,
Bureau, which I
later
guess
this
is,
afternoon,
how do
I
we
have some
rebuild
further
that thing we
examples
just
of,
closed?
702 success that we can talk about, and I think.
But
that,
I need more.
reflects my
I need
position.
more heat in the kitchen
you
for
all.
this
I yield back.
signal
Gentleman
gate.
yields. Mr. Christian
Great
Moore.
yield. Thank you. God damn.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for coming. Thank you for your service. Director Gabbard, you said no classified information was included in the signal chat, correct?
That's correct.
And President Trump also said there was no classified information in the signal chat, and Secretary Hegseth said nobody was texting war plans.
I can't
There was
imagine
absolutely no classified info in that
being
chat.
enlisted and having to
Lieutenant General
follow
Cruz, I'd like to
these
talk to you
morons.
about a couple things real quick. Executive Order 13526, Section 1.4a. This is the Trump administration's executive order with regard to classified information. It says, information shall be classified if its unauthorized disclosure could reasonably be expected to cause damage to national security, including military plans, weapons systems, or operations. You don't disagree that that's
Oh, ding, ding,
accurately
ding.
quoted,
All
right?
three.
That's an accurate quote from the executive order.
Oopsie.
And DOD 5200.01, this is the DOD's manual on classification, says, quote, information shall be classified if its unauthorized disclosure could reasonably be expected to cause describable damage to national security. This includes military plans, weapon systems, or operations. You don't disagree that I quoted that accurately, right?
That's also an accurate quote.
Can I show you I'd like to show you the text that Secretary Hegseth actually
I love cinnamon.
published
Oh my
to the
God.
world.
That's exciting.
Now,
Tom.
Lieutenant
Thank
General
you.
Cruz, as Ranking Member
We could use some
Himes
good
said,
news.
it says, time now, weather is favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM we are a go for mission launch. Then it says at 12:15 Eastern, F-18's launch, first strike package. F-18s are military systems, correct? Weapon systems.
They are.
Okay. 13:45, trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch, MQ-9s. MQ-9s is a weapon system, correct?
They are.
Okay. I think applying the executive order as well as the DOD manual to this fact pattern, we clearly have weapon systems that have been identified. That is classified information. Now, the reason why it's important that this information not be disclosed is that we don't want the adversaries to know what's about to happen, right, sir?
Well, I would draw a small distinction there. You referenced and asked if that platform, those two platforms are weapon systems. They are, but those terms are used all across the globe in a lot of contexts. So it's really about how they're used in the context of this.
How about this
I just
context?
want to clarify that the use of those.
I understand.
Yeah.
In this situation,
Generically, you can
those
say
are
those
operational
terms.
details.
They are operational details, but again, as you quoted the DoD instruction, it's about operations. So as you further go down into what are the operational details, I think as we had a discussion yesterday, the important aspect, I think all of us are very familiar.
This is classified information. This is classified information. It's a weapon system as well as sequence of strikes
And target.
as well as details about the operations. And so I think that just piggybacking off of what some other members have said, using the DoD's manual as well as the executive order in operation today with the Trump administration, this text message is clearly classified information. Secretary Hegseth has disclosed military plans as well as classified information. He needs to resign immediately. He needs to resign immediately, and a full investigation needs to be undertaken with regard to whether other similar signal chats are occurring in this administration.
Ding, 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 ding.
I'd like
Thank
to turn
you.
my attention to another topic.
Thank you, Christian Morrissey.
Director
I
Patel,
love
according
you.
to the DOJ, in 2022, the FBI-led Joint Terrorism Task Force, JTTF, in my hometown of Chicago, valiantly led efforts to prevent a plot to attack Naval Station Great Lakes in Illinois. You don't dispute that, do you, sir?
I'm not familiar with it, but I don't dispute what you're telling me.
Thank you. A memo obtained
How are
by
you not
ABC
familiar
7
with
News
it?
of
Are
Chicago
you
said
doing
that
your
this
job
task
at all?
force will now be, quote, actively supporting, close quote, the Department of Homeland Security and its immigration enforcement. You don't dispute that either, do you?
I'm just not familiar with it, sir.
Okay. Sir, I just have to say, the DOJ has now tasked JTTFs to shift some resources to immigration enforcement efforts. And I don't say this lightly, if there's a terrorist attack anywhere in the country, including in Chicago, and it was because the JTTFs in part shifted resources, they'll be held to pay. Thank you, sir.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director
Oh,
Gabbard,
that's
was
true.
the
He
target
likes to fire
terrorist
people when they're on
named in the
planes to
text, or was
places,
simply
doesn't he?
referred to as
Yeah.
target terrorist?
The target was not
That's a
named.
boily face.
Thank you. Was the location named?
Yes.
Congressman, no locations were named.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Patel, there was a
This guy is
specific
like-
accusation made
Like he
about,
got an
how
acid
close
an
we are
acid
working
wash this morning.
with Mexico currently. My understanding, and I want to congratulate you on this, and I think it shows a shift of focus at the
Wow,
FBI
that's
since
like
you've
a
taken
really
over to what
weird
it should have been doing all
softy.
along,
He's
was
like Zoftig,
chasing
you know? He's
10
like a
most
Zoftig.
wanted, that
He's
are
like
threatening our
squishy.
country. My understanding
Like a
is
squishy
that
toy.
two of the
Like a
three were
Pokemon
actually
squishy
arrested
toy.
in Mexico and are being
Which
extradited
Pokemon
back
is he?
to the United States. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We have been working. One of the first meetings I took as FBI director was my counterpart, Secretary Farouche in Mexico. And subsequent to that, we have repaid or extradited or expelled from Mexico 2 top 10 of the FBI's most wanted list and 33 other criminals.
Well, it sounds to me like we're working closer with them today than we have in the last several years, and that the focus of the FBI has shifted to actually protecting American citizens instead of arresting pro-life protesters.
Woke mind
Our mission is
viruses.
to find violent criminals wherever they are, and if they're in Mexico, we're going to get them.
Thank you.
I arrested 7 people in Akron.
In,
Look at my
focus of
vest.
The FBI. I want to talk with you a little bit about the counterintelligence threats, one of which was an active duty U.S. Army soldier charged with conspiring to transmit national defense information to individuals located in China. What can you say in this setting, or can you briefly explain your work with interagency partners to identify and neutralize counterintelligence threats in the United States around this example?
For me, sir?
Yes, sir.
So generally speaking, on counterintelligence and countering espionage, whether it's from adversaries like the CCP, Russia, Iran, or otherwise, we have prioritized them as an equally violent criminal enterprise seeking to do harm to our critical infrastructure.
Mexico has
and
named
also
USA
to
drug lords that are
exploit and steal
colluded
our
with high
data,
USA
whether it's
people,
government or
DEA,
private
and I'll get some
personnel.
info on
And
that,
so we
Paulina.
have
That has been
expanded our
fucking
resources
tastic.
into them and working with the interagency to make it a
Do
priority.
it. I love the
I wanna move
Mexican
on
president.
to,
Thank you, Claudia
the
Scheinbaum.
issue of the threshold of parole under the previous administration and the number of illegal immigrants that have come into this country, including people with known membership in terrorist groups.
That's fucking
Those
awesome.
individuals that,
I'm
that
sorry.
pose a risk and that we have captured and are being deported, are we sharing the biometric and biographic information with our allies to mitigate their ability to relocate or operate abroad?
What we are doing at the FBI is sharing the information we're allowed to with our Five Eye partners, and then on an individual basis, we are trying to share information with other partners who deemed individuals that they find of consequence.
Okay. As you move further into your position, if you have additional recommendations on how we better share information, please let us know.
Yes, sir.
Director Ratcliffe, China's influence on the Panama Canal has increased since 2017. Panama became the first Latin American country to
Have
sign
you
on
caught
the
up?
China's Belt and
BlackRock
Road
bought
Initiative.
both those ports.
Can you talk about not just
Am
China
I better
embedding
read in than this
itself
fucking
into the
asshole?
various canal-related sectors and operations, but what other areas in Central and South America have China and others increased their presence, and what examples concern you the most?
Thanks, Congressman. Appreciate the question. I do want to comment. The question before about cooperation with Mexico, it's really across the IC. When Mexico's Secretary General Omar Harfuch, head of Mexican security, was here, he not only met with Director Patel, he met with Director Gabbard, and he met with me. So we have been working on that, again, to the benefit of both our countries. To your point, the PRC throughout Central and South America continues to attempt to use its soft power to gain a foothold. They use direct aid to countries that need it. They also provide funding to universities to get a foothold to create influence. And you mentioned the Panama Canal, and you've seen the diplomatic efforts of the administration to address that and push back on PRC ownership of the canal locks. But that ties into what the IC is doing. In these instances, it's important for us, Congressman, to the best way we can operate is to provide intelligence to countries in Central and South America, to provide them with briefings, which we do, to provide them with tailored analysis of our intelligence about how China is manipulating them, about how China is hacking them, the things that China is doing to gain a foothold, and Russia and Iran throughout that area. So the CIA is very much focused on that.
Gentleman's time's expired. Mr. Crow.
Thank you, Chairman. General Hawk, the NSA recently warned its employees not to use the Signal app. Is that correct?
What we did, Congressman, is we put out cybersecurity advisories on a whole host of systems.
On the Signal app that was included in that advisory, right?
What we've done is we've put out an advisory on how to use the Signal app and other encrypted applications, because we do encourage our employees and their families to use encrypted.
Because there's risk to that app.
There are.
Okay. General Cruz, DOD also issued a warning about vulnerabilities to the Signal app recently, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Director Gabbard, you were on this Signal text chain in question, correct?
He's meant to be there. I just have to remove the background.
The administration's lead negotiator with the Russians, correct?
Yes.
And at the time, Mr. Witkoff was actually in Russia during this chat discussion, was he not?
I was not aware of that.
You're not aware?
Was he on his personal phone at the time?
I don't know.
Well, it's my understanding that he was indeed in Russia. Director Gabbard, you were also traveling during this discussion, correct?
Yes.
And where were you?
I was traveling through the Asia-Pacific region. I don't recall which country I was in at that time.
You don't remember the country?
I'd have to go back and look at the schedule.
I could see that. Susan Rice saying the Russians definitely have everything
Director
if they were using
Gabbard,
their personal
I want to direct
phones.
your attention again
that's
to the text chain.
understandable,
where it
Max.
says-
This is big. This is big. I mean, they don't want to make it big.
Just confirmed with CENTCOM,
But it's big.
we are a go for mission launch. Does that indicate to you that there is about to be a military operation?
Yes.
Director Gabbard, earlier in this hearing, we heard about the DoD's classification standards. I want to now turn my attention to your classification standards. You're the Director of National Intelligence. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence classification guide says, quote, information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing for an attack, end quote, is to be classified as top secret. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Director Gabbard, have the Houthis indicated an ability to shoot down American aircraft?
Yes.
They have in fact done so, haven't they?
Yes.
Including MQ-9 Reapers, haven't they?
That's correct.
And that was one of the systems used in the attack recently that's the subject of this discussion, is it not?
Correct.
General Cruz, are you familiar with this system?
I'm not wearing my glasses at the moment, but...
Well, I'll help you out. This is an SA-3 anti-aircraft system.
Correct.
Are you familiar with this next system?
I am.
What is it?
I'm going to have to ask you.
It's an SA-6.
I'm going to guess that
this is also an advanced anti-aircraft system.
How does he not know what that is?
It was used widely in the Balkans in the 90s, correct?
And the Houthis also have this system, don't they?
They certainly do.
And they've employed it against our aircraft, have they not?
They have attempted to, correct.
I spent my life in service to this country. I deployed 3 times to combat in service to this nation. I learned in that time in service that responsibility is core to leadership. You accept responsibility when things go wrong. You admit mistakes. You set the standard from the very top. It is completely outrageous to me that administration officials come before us today with impunity, no acceptance of responsibility, excuse after excuse after excuse, while we send our men and women downrange to do incredibly difficult, incredibly dangerous things on our behalf. And yet, nobody is willing to come to us and say this was wrong. This was a breach of security and we won't do it again. It is outrageous and it is a leadership failure, and that's why Secretary Hegseth, who undoubtedly transmitted classified, sensitive operational information via this chain, must resign immediately. There can be no fixes, there can be no corrections until there is accountability, and I'm calling on the administration to move forward with accountability. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman
They're just going to dump
Texas,
Hegseth and get another fucking Yahoo
Mr.
in
Crenshaw.
there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. Good to see you.
But I
Good to
want
meet you
Hegseth
again.
humiliated.
And, thank you for
Oh, what do
enduring
you
a
got
2
to
long
say,
days.
Dan?
I will note I always use fire emojis when I see terrorists getting killed. And, I want to
You
talk
think
about
that's funny?
cartels. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. I've been investigating it thoroughly for the last couple of years, and I'm glad to see that it's mentioned in all of your opening statements. I mentioned it at the very beginning of the threat assessment. There's a lot to work on here. One of our task force, we had a cartel task force in Congress. One of our key findings was that there needs to be a centralized, maybe call it authority or maybe call it office, maybe call it cartel czar within the administration that actually coordinates all the very different aspects of fighting this battle. Has anything like that been talked about? I'll go to you, Director Gabbard.
Thank you, Congressman. It's good to see you again. This is very much central to the conversations and planning and execution of the President's focus on targeting the cartels and the threats that they pose to the American people. Homeland security task forces are being set up that include across the government integration. I can speak from my standpoint from the intelligence community and our National Counterterrorism
It's just
Center
it,
is
it's
leaning
in.
heavily
So
forward
actually, I
into,
did expect more of Dan Crenshaw.
gathering
Okay,
and
I
consolidating
expected
and
more
integrating the
of Dan
intelligence that comes
Crenshaw,
from DEA
even
and
though
others
he's a
who've been working
douchebag,
this
and of
issue
course
for a
now he's a
while,
douchebag.
to make it so that it
He
can
proved
be
he's a
shared and
douchebag yet
integrated
again. He's
through
a
the
weak
federal,
ass
state, and local law
pussy
enforcement equities who are
douchebag.
going after this problem.
I at least
Yeah,
thought
we'll talk a
Dan
lot more about
Crenshaw would
that
say,
exact
"I
thing in
can't
closed
stand
session,
by
but at
while
a higher
my
level, our
brothers and
recommendation is
sisters
for
in
these to be
arms are
similar to
put
much
in
higher level
danger by
headquarters,
an inept
state, DOD, CIA,
Fox TV
FBI,
news host and
Homeland.
his
It's a massive
friends."
problem. One I'm multi-familiar with. Director Patel, the
Ridiculous.
FBI is tasked with working foreign corruption charges.
Dan,
in
shame
the
on
past
you.
administration,
Shame
the
on
FBI told
you.
me they
You're
actually don't
shitting on
focus
your
Mexico
valor.
very much. Because, and now in their defense, they say the reason is because they won't get anything out of it. Because they don't have a cooperative government to work with. I think a lot has changed. Do I have your commitment that we will at least start following up on those, because the judiciary system in Mexico is a key component in our failures to address the cartels?
You do, Congressman. Apologies for not getting back to you sooner.
Yeah, because what are you doing?
You're good.
Day drinking?
Appreciate it. I also want to ask you that the FBI has disrupted an alarming number of terrorist attacks in the last 2 years. Great on the FBI for doing that. I don't think many Americans realize
Okay.
how good the FBI has been at this.
Okay.
But this also gets to the conversation
Under the Biden
earlier
administration?
about FISA 702. One of the main arguments I tried to I wanted to argue with my colleagues on this was, when you have a warrant process for the query.
Oh my God. Are we back to
fail
702?
do
That's all they
is
can talk
connect the
about.
dots between the
Wow.
domestic and the international threat. And those,
Wow.
and those connections are there, as we see all the time. Would you agree with that, that we need to maintain that process?
By the way, who
in a
didn't do a
responsible
great
way?
job, really. So,
Appreciate
whatevs.
that. Director Gabbard, in my remaining time, I want to ask you, because of my, and this may go to our General Cruz as well, because of my work on energy and commerce, we have an issue there with broadband spectrum auctions, and of course this.
Oh,
affects our
spectrum
intelligence
auctions. We
community
talked about
in a very
those
large way,
yesterday.
and
Where's that
our
article?
DoD. Getting right to the question here, how much, if any, spectrum can the DoD give up without having a significant effect on the administration's prioritization
Oh
of
my
lethality
God.
and deterrence?
I'll defer to General Cruz, specific to DOD.
I certainly wouldn't want to speak for all of DOD, and I think the committee is already in a fantastic conversation with the DOD on that issue. But broadly, what I would say is DOD has laid out the portions of the spectrum that it believes for both
There you go.
operational capabilities, and in closed session, I am more than happy to walk you through from the intelligence portion of the mission that we do. There are two different portions of the spectrum. We often talk about one, but not the other, and in closed session, I'd be more than happy to tell you why the other portion of the spectrum is important to national security.
Sure. And the
Dan
details are
used to have a
obviously classified,
spine,
but we can talk
kind
about
of,
X
sort of,
and S
a little bit.
spectrums,
And then somebody got mean at him,
public-
and he doesn't have a spine
the public
anymore.
would benefit from telecom having the ability to use some of these. When we look at 5G networks, 6G networks, so it's a conversation that we need to have and a much longer time to do so, which I've run out of. So I yield back. Thank you.
Gentleman yields. Dr. Barra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sure it's comfort.
I associate myself with the comments
Monocles are
of my
hard.
colleague, Congressman Crow. I'm deeply disappointed in how we're handling this breach of protocol and so forth. Every year at the beginning
Hope
of
Stacey Plants
Congress,
gets there.
we take an oath to office. This is an awesome responsibility to be a member of Congress, to protect our country. We have no greater responsibility than to protect our homeland. And, when I walk into this committee and the honor of being on this committee, I don't see Democrats and Republicans. I see folks that every day want to do the same thing. But as Congressman Crow suggested, the mark of leadership, and we all are leaders in this room, is to accept responsibility when mistakes happen. And that signal chat was a mistake. I'm not here to impugn your character. You were all nominated by the president. You were all confirmed by the president. But we have an awesome responsibility and incredible responsibility to the American people. And then given that we are the United States of America, we have a responsibility to the world. And this really was a breach of protocol. I'll take you at your word that
I'm
we're
not
going to do a full
entirely sure,
investigation
Karen.
of it.
I'm not sure.
Our responsibility as oversight is to understand this breach, understand who leaked information,
They did it because they didn't want a
how that
record of the
happened,
conversation.
and then
Okay?
hold those responsible.
Period.
You know, I 100% agree with the chairman in his opening statement. He said, where trust is breached, those responsible need to be held accountable. So do I have, Director Gabbard, we served together, we came into Congress together. Do I have your word when this investigation is fully completed, we will get the full
I just wonder what other conversations have taken
Thank you,
place.
Congressman. That would
And
be my
lazy,
intent.
yes.
I will caveat that by saying that this is being conducted by the National Security Council. I've not gotten any indication.
Didn't
that
we fire
they
the
would try to
National
withhold
Security
that, but
Council?
I can't speak for them.
I also, I see way too much politics when it comes to our national security and our national defense. We've got to keep politics out of this. We're not Democrats or Republicans. We're Americans. We're tasked with the responsibility of keeping our country safe. Director Gabbard, you have an awesome responsibility here to advise the president, to collate all the information, everything that the
To read the
IC
things that
is
people type for you.
providing, and provide that best advice
In the
guidance
best
to the
monotone
President
that
of the
you can
United States.
muster.
We have to keep politics out of this. Even if the president disagrees with this, if it goes against his personal wishes, if he's considering an order that potentially is unconstitutional or illegal or compromises our security, I want your word that you will always provide and give that honest advice to the president, even if it will make him angry.
Thank you, Congressman. I appreciate the question because, as you said, I do take this responsibility very
She's
seriously.
kind of melting down,
It
though.
was my commitment to the president.
Caroline
to
Levitt's
the
kind of
Senate,
melting
the
down, I
American people,
notice.
that
I
as
don't
the
think she's
Director of
going to
National
last.
Intelligence, I will ensure to provide the president and all of you as policymakers with
That's cool,
that
Karen.
unbiased, relevant, and timely intelligence. And to your specific question, the answer is yes. I will inform the president of that accurate, timely, unbiased intelligence reporting, whether it is something that agrees with an assumption or a view or an objective or not. That's my responsibility to him and to the American people.
Is it your responsibility to
I would
also
just offer advice.
verify who you're in
your
a signal
role,
chat with?
What you do on your personal devices versus your official devices, you're speaking to the public, and I would just offer, as I conduct myself, what I say personally is always going to be considered.
Exactly.
Congressman Barris.
Sorry.
General Hawk, I've appreciated working with you, and have a deep concern about our cyber vulnerabilities, and we will go into some of this in the closed session. But Salt Typhoon is something we take very seriously, as well as Volt Typhoon and the compromises. Can you just briefly give us an update of where we are with those two?
So, Congressman, we share your concern in terms of the overall ensuring that we can protect the critical infrastructure of the United States. The area that we have been deeply focused on is our ability to partner with industry. 99% of our critical infrastructure is controlled by our industry. So our ability to bring government information to be able to understand what threats look like and the origin of those threats, help inform how industry can defend that and also create the necessary equipment to ensure that we're secure. That partnership continues to grow, and that's really one of our key priorities. And I'll be able to go in closed session into more detail about the specific actions we've done together as an interagency with our industry teammates.
Right, thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields. A gentleman from Pennsylvania.
There's a
General
link
Perry.
about Salt
Thank you,
Typhoon
Mr.
hack.
Chairman. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attendance and your service to national security for our country. I'm going to start with Director Patel and then go to Director Gabbard. I'm concerned, like many Americans, about the wide-scale purchase of
I'm
land,
concerned
real
about
estate,
your
et cetera,
Walgreen
by
glasses.
the Chinese Communist Party or those sanctioned by the party in America, especially those lands proximate to sensitive military sites or sensitive national security sites. Director Patel, I think we can all understand
That's
that
true,
could
Max.
lead
It's in
to
the Project 2025
ease
training
of
videos to
nefarious
bypass
activities of
record
numerous
keeping.
sorts. What do you think should be our posture or our policy from a national security standpoint regarding the purchases of these land and the ownership, occupation, utilization, et cetera, by the Communist Party sanctioned?
How about by billionaires?
Well, Congressman, I
how do you
appreciate
feel
the
about
question,
that?
And I'm not going to shape foreign or national policy, but from the FBI perspective, if we had federal statutes to enact criminal allegations and pursue those relating to these matters, we would do so. I agree
If
with
we
you that
made it a
having,
crime to do that,
CCP
then
actors
we would
purchasing
go
large
ahead
swaths
and
of
do
land
that.
next to
No, it's
military
not the same,
installations is a
doctor.
national security issue, a major
the
one.
same.
And I would highlight to the American public,
That's Ronnie.
we're
He's
not allowed
much
to buy
dumber
farmland
sounding.
in mainland China or in Russia. So I don't know why we let that happen here, but that's a personal matter for me. If I were given more legislation,
What do you mean
on
it's a
it, I would
personal
love to act
matter?
on it.
What the hell's personal about it for you? What the
I'm gonna
hell
look
is
at,
happening here?
Keeping
Oh
with
my
the same
God.
theme,
What?
crypto mining by the sanction. Well, you can't crypto mine in China, right? It's outlawed in China.
That's
However,
Scott Perry
of course,
from
we're supportive
Pennsylvania.
Of crypto, I am in the United States of America, but China
with his Walmart or his Walgreen glasses.
In China. And in particular, I'm thinking about one
Disappointing.
site where the mining was occurring close to intercontinental ballistic missiles, and CFIUS was tipped off by
Oh no, Neil.
by Microsoft.
No expectations here.
And of course, there are actions ongoing.
No, this guy's equally.
Should the Chinese Communist Party,
He's one of the
sanctioned
insurrectionists,
individuals
basically.
or interests be allowed
He
to
helped.
crypto mine near sensitive
He tried to help
military or
them in the
national security sites in the
2020
United States of America, and if
election
not, what
fraud.
should we be doing about it?
Yeah, he's an old insurrectionist.
Thank you for your question, Congressman. I'm not fully
I'm going to
aware
read
and up to
this.
date on the specific example that you've mentioned, and I'll go and look into that and
Happy to
get back
provide.
to you further.
Right.
Absolutely. Look forward to having the conversation with
What?
you. Broadly, this is obviously a concern, that any of these activities occurring near or around any of our military sites.
What, you don't have any information
creates
on that?
potential national security risk and the potential for.
I know, they always do that,
foreign
Neil. It's always
intelligence
misleading.
Collection.
I'm hoping it's a priority for everybody on
Well,
the dais
apparently
there. It
it's
is
not a
I
priority,
think, for the
Scott.
American people, certainly for me. I want to move on in the time remaining with a related topic, which is the hundreds of incidents by predominantly Chinese students, oftentimes called gate crashers. So this includes the two gentlemen in uniform on the dais. I'm going to kind of point to three events that happened just last year. One in Grayling, Michigan. 5 Chinese students are charged for lying and concealing evidence. One in the University of Minnesota, where a drone flew over Newport News and took pictures of classified information regarding ships and classified systems. And then one at the University of Florida regarding the illicit acquisition and shipment of toxins,
yeah, they
biomedical
did. They
drugs,
released the whole
and
thing.
research supplies to China.
But I
In these
appreciate the
cases, or most
FOIA.
of these cases,
You don't know what else is in there.
we encounter these people and then we release these people. As a matter of fact, in the case of Florida, apparently she found out
What
that
if you end up getting
criminal
something
charges
different
were
from
being
what the
prepared,
Atlantic
and
published?
she dropped out of school and her whereabouts remain unknown at this point. What should be our posture? Because we're trying to
take anything
follow
for
up
granted
after
these
the
days.
fact. We're encountering these people, whether they're gate crashers or whether we catch them conducting this illicit activity. We try and prosecute. That takes a lot of man hours, as you know, Director
And didn't he
Patel.
leave the conversation at one point? So you might get something else, right?
Can do. I mean, the Immigration Nationality Act of 1952 gives the Secretary of State the authority to revoke visas. But should these people be allowed to come to this country in the first
Are we gonna
place? is the question
move
of
into
what's
some
our
dangerous territory here, Mr. Perry?
In terms of the visa issue, I know that the administration is working on a policy, but to directly answer your question, anybody who utilizes the student visa program to come to this country to conduct criminal activity should never be allowed in this country. And anyone that's doing it here in the United States of America from an FBI standpoint,
Let me say
will be
the most
vigorously
obvious things,
investigated and will
okay?
use the expulsion or criminal process.
Yeah, with people like Tulsi.
Gentleman yields. Ms. Plaskett.
Yay!
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to the witnesses. First let me say that we do have to,
He
in
just
this
makes me
committee, try as
breathe
much
more
as
deeply.
possible to remain nonpartisan as opposed to bipartisan. I can recall being that way when I was counsel on the House Ethics Committee, and it's a hard position to take. But I'm really struck by the fact that in December of 2023, many people made Secretary Lloyd Austin go through the stages of the cross in self-flagellation and mea culpas for not informing the president that he was having a surgery. And now how we're treating Secretary Hedgepeth as if he is untouchable. Mike Waltz, when he was a member of Congress, went in the Committee on Armed Services to talk about and slammed Austin for holding himself to a different standard than the American people. And yet we are not doing this across the board. And that's disappointing at the very least, very disappointing. Director Gabbard, thank you for your testimony. And one of the things that I believe I heard you say was that when there was a discussion by DOJ as to the cuts to foreign aid, that there had not been a request for an intelligence and national security or an intelligence assessment of the impact of those cuts. Was that your testimony a little earlier?
Congresswoman, I have not seen any kind of actual official assessment either within the intelligence community or outside of it on what the effects of those cuts to USAID
I don't think that's a flex,
been.
girl.
But it was not requested by DOJ of you or of any of the areas in which you have oversight over?
I'm not aware of any
Okay,
requests.
great. Thank you. I know that there has been some open source reporting on what the effect of those cuts are. I mean, when we think about several examples, Kenya, our strongest regional ally in the Horn of Africa, and a key partner with us in the fight against terrorist group Al-Shabaab. And, according to the Washington Post, that's not definitive, and we can talk about this in closed session. Some Kenyan journalists are now being trained by Beijing, mirroring the U.S. programs that have been cut by the administration. Director Gabbard, is letting China train Kenyan journalists going to make Kenya more or less receptive to American requests of the Kenyan government, do you believe?
As you said, Congresswoman, our relationship with Kenya has been very long-standing.
So do cuts of ours to train journalists in Kenya make them more or less, and Beijing having that make them more or less receptive?
Clearly, there is strategic competition taking place. I'll withhold my personal view to look at an official assessment.
Well, I was asking for your director view, not your personal view. And then
I don't need your fucking personal view, you stupid idiot.
Voice of America, which provided accurate, unbiased news, in our opinion. Meanwhile, St. Petersburg University has announced that it's opened 11 Russian language centers across Africa that pay special attention to the promotion of traditional Russian spiritual and moral values. Director Gabbard, is Russia a friend or a foe? Are they our friend or our adversary?
They are an adversary.
Thank you. I believe that this reckless cuts make terrorism and our influence in Africa, which is on the front lines of terrorism, a real threat to us, and we need to be careful of it. Director Patel, one of the benefits of being here kind of in the middle is I get to hear other people's testimony and the questions that are asked. I know that Mr. Carson asked you questions specifically about the Counterterrorism Division. And we know that there has been some open source reporting that says that individuals within that division have been removed or been moved, not necessarily fired, but moved. Do you know if that is correct?
I don't have any personal information on that, but people within the CTD component, which is a large component of the FBI, move all the time.
And have they been moved? Are you able to get that information to us, whether they have or have not been moved?
I'll go back to my team and see who has been moved. If you have a particular interest, we'll share it with you.
Of course, we have an interest in Counterterrorism Division and movement of individuals within that. Because one of the other things I'm concerned about is you have stated, I believe in other areas, that the disbandment of certain sections of the FBI related to intel and breaking up components. Can you explain to us how you intend to do that or what you would like to do and why?
My intention is to reprioritize counterintelligence authorities and cyber capabilities to focus on violent crime and national security, and that's what I'm doing.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
Thank you.
The gentlewoman from Missouri, Madam Ambassador, Ms. Wagner.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank all of you for being here and for your
She's so
continued
good
service to our country. Director Ratcliffe, you have
Oh,
repeatedly
I can
stated that
share it, Karen.
China is our top national security threat, and I agree. What was the biggest gap in intelligence collection toward China during the previous administration?
Good to see you, Congresswoman. I think our collection against China as a hard target in the prior administration was lacking in several areas. I would say primarily in human collection, and also with regard to the processing of open source information relating to China. I think part of that relates, Congresswoman, to the policies of the prior administration about treating China as a pacing competitor, I think was the word, as opposed to an adversary. So one of the things in my focus as CIA director, which carried over from my time as DNI, in seeing all of our intelligence, seeing that China is our greatest geopolitical threat, and focusing the CIA specifically more directly in all
There you
areas
go.
of our
It should be open to everyone. I don't think that it's behind a
target.
paywall.
Well, and I'm grateful to hear you say the words open source. So as I hope that all of you may be aware, I am honored to be the chair of the new Open Source Intelligence Subcommittee for HPSI. It is the first time this committee has focused specifically on an intelligence discipline, I'll say. We established this subcommittee because private
Are you kidding me, SB? Joe Boasberg has been assigned to the Signal Gate lawsuit? Oh, fuck.
Are taking full advantage
God,
of the
I just have chills.
explosion
Like,
of commercially
not sure how I feel about that.
available information. HPSI has taken a stance that OSINT, open source intelligence, should mature as a primary discipline on its own accord. Director Ratcliffe, your agency kind of produces the
Should
lion's
mature on its
share,
own
I'd say,
accord?
of,
How does that work?
Of OSINT. Do you agree, sir, that open source intelligence should mature to be a primary discipline?
What do you mean a primary
Absolutely
discipline?
agree. So as you know well, Congresswoman, the CIA
Those sound like
is the
loaded
functional
phrases.
manager for OSINT, just as we are the functional manager for HUMANT across the IC. And OSINT, open source intelligence, reaches, frankly, policymakers as the most cited material in the President's daily brief as part of a long list of tailored production that we do, by a large percentage. But also, as you know, and as you've pointed out, Congressman, until recently, one of the greatest weaknesses with regard to OSINT was that the collection was so large that it was daunting for use by mission partners across the IC. So the CIA's open source enterprise pioneered the use of AI to triage that collection as it comes in. And what that allows us to do is to summarize collection from over 225 languages into English and to put that in the hands of policymakers, again, showing that the CIA is focused on using technology to tackle some of the challenges to intelligence collection.
There is so much innovation in technology in this, and the investments being made across the IC to purchase data, but it appears to be in silos, to be perfectly honest, and lacking maybe an integrated approach. I believe that that is because there, frankly, is no clear lead for OSINT in the IC. And as part of my oversight responsibilities, I plan to review the various ways in which the intelligence community buys commercially available information to determine if there is a more efficient, cost-effective approach, especially when it comes to the taxpayer's expense. Director Gabbard and then Director Ratcliffe, can you, and in my brief time, quickly share your thoughts on which agency should be the primary organization to manage OSINT and why?
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you for your leadership in this area. I look forward to following up with you in detail, but the Office of Director of National Intelligence is tackling exactly the problem that you've identified.
I don't see a good.
We have multiple elements across the intelligence community, essentially wasting taxpayer dollars by contracting separately to get after the same.
Also use archive.is.
Available intelligence.
Archive.is.
Working on and look forward to working with you.
And do you agree?
Plug in the link in the top search bar, and it should come up without a paywall.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. My time's expired, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
I'm trying to find a Pentagon briefing that's live, but I only
Thank you,
see
Mr.
ones on
Chairman.
stupid,
So I
like
wanna
weird,
make a few things clear before we
crazy
move on
channels.
to other questions regarding the Signal chat. Director Gabbard, yesterday before the Senate Intelligence Committee, specifically when answering Senator Kelly, you repeatedly said you did not recall any discussion in the Houthi PC small group discussing operational details.
I do
strike
see a White
targets,
House
the type
briefing
of
coming
vehicles
up,
and
so
military units involved, or the timing and order of strikes. Do you stand by your testimony from yesterday that you do not recall any of the discussions regarding this type of classified information? Yes or no?
My response in the Senate yesterday, yes, I stand by that response. Obviously, the release of the screenshots that came from that chat group today were a refresher on what happened. As I said earlier, I was not involved with that portion of the chat, so it did not come to my recollection yesterday.
Thank you. So I take that as you stand by your do not recall yesterday stance when it was you're asked those questions. You've been in office 43 days. Director Radcliffe has been in office 62 days. This was considered the first major military operation using lethal force of the Trump administration. Was this the first, this was probably the first time that you've been involved with a discussion like this on a thread. It was not discussing, you were not on a group chat discussing where we're gonna go for lunch. You're discussing putting men and women of the armed services in harm's way. That's a major decision. So, and when did that happen? 10 days ago? Okay, I'll answer that. It happened 10 days ago. Here's the point. Like something of this magnitude, it's something that you would not forget. It's something that most people, if you're taking this job so seriously, that you would not
butterflies.
forget.
Aw, it's nice to have company.
I mean, since I've been on this committee, there's been days that I have woken up in the middle of the night from the things I learned in skill.
AI is handling our fucking
To use
intel.
military force is something hard to
What?
imagine. So the do not recall doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah.
It makes it, it's unbelievable that was the case. So that's what the American people don't understand. And I know a lot of folks in this administration were saying that they're going to take on the establishment and drain the swamp.
Eyeballing
But you have
him.
become that swamp in a matter of days, not weeks or months, days. So one of the things we're going to look into is if what actually occurred, because the American people deserve a full accounting.
What else is on
Additionally,
Signal?
the main person
What
who
other
was involved in this
conversations
thread
took place
that a
on
lot of people
Signal?
want to talk to is Secretary of Defense Hegseth. And a lot of questions were brought up regarding his drinking habits in his confirmation hearing. To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Director Radcliffe, same question. Yes or no?
You know, no, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you
Hey,
want
no,
to.
shut up.
No, I'm
This is
going to
my
answer.
time.
You asked me a
Director,
question. You want an
director.
answer?
No, listen.
No.
You want to
yes or no?
focus on the good work that the CIA is doing.
Shut
that
up.
The intelligence
Shut him down.
community.
Director,
Shut him down.
I reclaim my time.
Shut him
Director,
down.
I reclaim my time. Here,
That's right. Thank you.
huge respect for the CIA, huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of every American, right? He stood in front of a podium in Europe holding a drink. So of course, we want to know if his performance is compromised. If people were asking if the General Austin was compromised because of a heart issue.
Was his performance compromised because of a successful
I yield
strike?
back, Mr. I bring my
You want to know?
reclaim my
You want to
time.
talk about
Was his
accepting
performance
responsibility?
compromised
Do you think
because
I
he
would
put
accept
people's
time.
lives in
responsibility
danger?
for a successful
ask
strike to make Americans safer?
I
You want to
reclaim my
focus
time. Claim my time.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. This is
Yeah, performance is carbonated.
As somebody, we've been briefed in this committee about using Signal. One of the things they basically said, the most secure, phone call. The least secure, text, messaging. And we know that your people, Russians, Chinese, are on your phone.
Gentleman's time's expired.
Oh, I love it.
Gentleman from Virginia.
Go deep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I know Russians are on your phone. Fuck yes.
Respond without being interrupted by his questioner.
Said it. Said it.
I appreciate that, Congressman. I guess.
No. I'm sorry.
Just a general reflection here again.
No. Oh my God. I lost his sound. I don't know. Let me imagine what he's saying. Hold on.
And then I simply picked up my phone. All I did was I went to the hallway and I asked my wife. I said, honey, where's my phone? Where's my phone? The one with the signal on it. And she said, it's in the hallway. Junior was using it to play Candy Crush, and then he shared it with a couple of his friends. But your signal chat phone is in the hallway, so go ahead and go get it. Junior's done playing with it. Okay, great, thanks, bye. I gotta go to work now because I'm gonna bomb something. Oops, did I say that out loud? Okay, so then I went to the Starbucks and I was ordering my matcha chacha latte. And it was extra foam, because I like the foam. I love foam. Anyways, so then there I was with my matcha tacha latte, and then she said, hey, I think we should bomb Yemen. I don't know, just name a country. I'm not really sure which one. Let's do one that's easy, okay? Let's do one that's easy, that's not gonna go ahead and like blow back on us or anything. Like, it's kind of okay if we bomb this country. So anyways, so there I was. I finished my matcha tacha latte, and then Tulsi girl, she hit me up. And then we were like, oh, there's Pete. But anyways, so then Pete said, hey, guys, we're going to go bomb and some stuff. Yeah, so there. That's what I did. I did.
Women, the brave men and women who are
in danger because of you.
For this country. And
Oopsie.
To the military as well. We are grateful.
I know. I have that teed up. The NPR PBS. I'm not sure how much we want to watch of that.
Correct. If you talked about China being our top.
In an hour, there's a White House press briefing. So
to what really is the most active. And
I'll probably be live for that.
It's related to cyber. It's related to the People's Republic of China cyber activities, Volt Typhoon, Flax Typhoon, Salt Typhoon. Targeting U.S. critical.
I'm reading all of these. Look at the idiot next to him. He looks like a Proud Boy action figure. Best male hair and glossed forehead. He is pretty shiny.
The Chinese are acting with impunity.
He's got hair like those guys on the, what are those? What's that show, the kid show, The Wiggles? Isn't there a bad guy on The Wiggles that has hair like that? Am I remembering that correctly? He's a fight starter in a tight suit.
Thank you, Congressman, for your question. In short,
Thank
the
you,
answer
Congressman.
is yes.
I really enjoyed
Much of that
meeting you
relies
yesterday
on our
for margaritas.
intergovernmental planning and operations,
He's got
but also
bad
very
guy
closely
hair.
integrating with our
No
private
cavities.
sector, partners.
Yeah.
This is essential
Nope,
for us
she
to be
didn't.
able to harden our own cyber infrastructure, our own
But we
critical
kind of got, we
infrastructure,
mentioned that
and to look at
Pete
what our
Hegseth is a
capabilities, both defensive and offensive, are and how those should be used. If I may, Congressman, I'd just like to address Congressman Gomez's maligning.
looks
of
like a
my
villain that's coming up in
reputation
like
and
Toy
not giving
Story
me the
7.
opportunity even
You
to
know, the
respond,
reckoning.
To his accusations. What occurred in that signal chat was an update to national security cabinet
That's right.
members
Tulsi
that was
Gabbard.
also issued around the same time
Yeah.
as updates to our foreign partners and allies in the region.
Wait,
There were no
what?
sources, methods, locations, or names of targets that were included
what?
in that chat. The decision to conduct
Really?
this operation had
Doesn't
been
everybody
made
know where his girlfriend
long before
lives?
that conversation took place. I do take my responsibility very seriously and played an integral role in providing the intelligence community's assessments that led to the ultimate decision by the president to conduct
He's
an
like a
operation,
medical
which,
office
by the
hold
way,
tape.
was very successful and continues to be very successful.
Despite
I was
us
traveling at
leaking
the time,
it.
and I was not playing a very specific role, as these chats reflect, in much of the conversation that took place there.
That's not my job.
Secretary Hegseth, in my
That's not my
experience,
job.
has continued to operate in the way that
Oh my
President
God.
Trump's
Wow, you're
confidence
the
in
head of
him
the whole thing,
inspires, which is
bitch.
in the best interest of the American
How
people.
much do you get paid a
and
year?
our war
How much does that
fighters
job
in
make?
ensuring our national security. I think it's wrong to impugn him, especially at a point
Stop
where
it.
he is not here to defend his own honor. Thank you, Congressman.
His own honor. He doesn't have any
And I
honor.
yield back. Gentleman yields. Ms. Houlihan.
Thank you for the time, and I struggle, and if you look at my notes, I've changed my mind about 1,000,000 times what I'd like to talk about. I'd like to first start with Director Radcliffe. I find it offensive for you to accuse me as a Democrat of not caring about national threats. I very much wanted to talk about those, in fact, had prepared questions in advance of this hearing about those threats, specifically about biosecurity and bioterrorism, but I don't have time to ask those questions because the threat is in the House. The threat is across the dais, and I need to ask these questions. It's my job to ask these questions of you. Because when I served in the military, and I served in classified environments, had this happened to me, I would have walked my resignation in immediately. This is not okay. Communicating these sorts of things in Signal is not okay. Targets, times, those kinds of things are absolutely classified, and we all know it. I know it, these people know it, you all know it. And the fact that we're having to have these conversations now means that I can't ask the questions that I need to ask about things like bioterrorism and biosecurity. And so I'd like to put you in check as well, sir, because you can't assume who I am any more than I can assume who you are, sir. I would like to move my questions, however, over to Director Gabbard, because you are the DNI. You do have an obligation and a responsibility. I'm going to speak to you specifically about the fact that you have spent much of your 40 days talking about the importance of making sure that we don't reveal classified information, making sure that we don't leak information. You're a former battalion commander in the Army. I don't think that you would have necessarily appreciated the kind of leaking of information that I believe absolutely did happen in this Signal channel and is worthy of a further investigation. In fact, this committee established something called 50 U.S.C.
That is how you use your
3235A,
notes,
and this
but
committee,
still
on a
give
bipartisan,
passion,
apartisan basis,
because you
requires
know
you,
what you're
the
going
DNI,
to say
swiftly
and what
notify
point you're
Congress,
driving home.
and the Intelligence Committee if you're aware of any sort of significant unauthorized disclosure or compromise of classified information, which I would argue this has all of the markings of being that. And so if you, as the DNI, see such a thing anywhere within your organization's purview, you have the obligation to begin an investigation to report back to us on that. Would this seem to qualify to you as something worthy of that investigation?
Thank you for your question, Congresswoman. In this situation, Secretary Hegseth has the
Yes or
classification
no?
and
You are the
declassification
DNI.
authority over DOD information.
This chat did not have the auspice of being a DOD chat. There was no such thing as labeling it as DOD. This was a chat amongst a great variety of people, and you, according to our law that we passed here bipartisanly, have an obligation when you think there has been a tangible, significant leak of information to instigate an investigation. Do you not think it's important to do such a thing?
Well, the National Security Council is investigating
no?
this inadvertent leak. And again, I point to Secretary Hegseth as having
Ooh,
the
that's a feeling.
classification
I
and
would argue that
classification
Secretary
authority.
Inadvertent
Hegseth, if
is
he
a
had,
feeling.
the dignity that he needs to have, should be walking his resignation in, because I believe that his probably is heading toward being relieved of his duty based on what I think are significant and illegal leaks, most likely. I would like it if you would please commit to this organization that you will follow the law, and I would like it if you would also investigate what is likely to be more than just this chat, because if there's one,
Oh, I
there's
love
more
this
than one.
woman.
There's smoke, there's fire. Would you please obligate yourself and your organization to that investigation?
Yeah, Congresswoman, yes, I will follow the law.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Director Patel,
I
I
will
learned
say
just
the bare
recently
minimum.
that you
Thank
only
you.
heard about this yesterday, which blows my mind since I heard about it 2 days ago, and I'm just a low on the dais, junior chipmunk here. Did you really only hear about this yesterday?
The exact timeline, I'm not aware of, but yeah, I think
He was day drunk on
Now
Monday.
that another day has passed, do you
Well,
believe,
actually, it was the night before the hearing.
now that another day has passed, do you believe that it's now time potentially for the FBI to open an investigation into this?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Because you're the director of the FBI, you don't believe it's appropriate to comment on that?
Because there's a process in place, there's an ongoing litigation, and the National Security Council is reviewing this matter. And I'm not going to discuss any open or closed
That
investigations.
ongoing investigation,
but you just
literally,
said-
the lawsuit happened
Whoa.
today or
God, you're
yesterday
dumb.
afternoon, and the idea that you don't have an opinion on this at this point is frustrating to me.
No, it's not.
My
I'm not
final
going to
question,
prejudge any
reclaiming my
matters,
time, my
and the men
final
and women of the
question, reclaiming
FBI
my
will
time, reclaiming
call
my
the
time,
balls and strikes.
Reclaiming my time,
not
sir.
you.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have.
Gentlewoman's recognized.
Censor that motherfucking witness.
No, I have more than that.
2
because
seconds
Mr.
remaining.
Patel
Censor
would not
that
answer-
Gentleman's time has
motherfucking
expired.
witness.
Mr. Stubbe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Gabbard, were there any sources described in the signal chat?
No, Congressman.
Were there any methods described in the signal chat?
No.
Were there any locations?
Fucking censor that
Due to the fact that there were
motherfucker.
no sources, no methods, nor locations described in the signal chat, it does not make the discussion classified. Is that correct?
That is up to the Secretary of Defense determination.
The Democrats are obviously making the assertions that what was in the signal chat was classified and claiming that Secretary Hegseth put this war plan out to the world, which he clearly did not. Were there any names in the signal chat?
No.
Any targets?
No.
Any locations?
No.
Was there a unit name or location of that unit?
There was not.
Were there any
Oh,
routes?
wow,
described in
how
the signal chat?
embarrassing for you that you are
Wouldn't an
not standing
operational
by your
plan
brothers and
contain that type
sisters
of information?
in the
Every
fucking
operational
military.
plan I've ever seen has contained that information.
Thank you. Shifting to the real threats to America, the southern border. Due to the previous administration's open border policies, they allowed over 10 million illegals into our country. And during that time, there was 1,511 terrorist-related encounters at land border ports of entry, according to CBP. As someone who fought in the war on terror, I find this deeply offensive that the previous administration would sacrifice the security and safety of the American people in the manner in which they allowed terrorists, criminals, and rapists into our country. In your testimony, you state, and I quote, based on the latest reporting available for a year-long period ending October 2024, cartels were largely responsible for the deaths of more than 54,000 U.S. citizens
I would call that-
from synthetic opioids. A lot of those citizens are from my home state of Florida. Cartels, narco-terrorists, and other violent transnational criminal organizations
Gosh,
have
I don't know. It's
violated
like a
the
steel
territorial
blue, but there's
integrity
got to be a
and
better.
sovereignty of the United States, and have also
Max,
fueled
you're
human
good with
trafficking
color
and the
names.
opioid epidemic
What
that
color
many of
would
my
you
fellow
call his
Floridians
suit?
have
It's like
witnessed
a
for far
blue
too long.
gray, but
I
it's
applaud
really
President
blue.
Trump and his swift decision to
It's much
designate
brighter than it looks
narco-terrorists
like on the
and Mexican
screen.
cartels as foreign
Yeah,
terrorist
I find your
organizations,
anus
and I wanna
mouth
thank each
very
of you
offensive.
for making this a priority to fight against Mexican cartels.
I find that
traffickers,
haircut very
narco-terrorists that have
offensive.
been responsible
It's
for
super
killing
blue.
Hundreds
Yeah.
of thousands of Americans. For every narco-terrorist
But it's
and
like
cartel member
there's no
violating our
green in
sovereignty,
it. You know, it's
poisoning
not
the
like a
American people with
mallard or
fentanyl and other
anything, but
illicit
it's like
opioids,
a.
know this, your days are numbered, and know that the full force of the U.S.
Yeah,
government will
guess
soon
what?
address your
Because here's
atrocities
the
once and for all.
opioids, fentanyl.
Director Patel,
It's not
no secret
purple.
that there is a growing presence of Mexican
It's
cartels
not
operating
purple. I
fentanyl
promise you, it's
synthesis
blue.
labs just over our
Congenital red-green color
Last
blindness.
year, the
Oh,
CBP
I'm
estimates
sorry.
that more than
His Big
12
Mac hole is
21,000 pounds of fentanyl
It
was
is like
seized
a
at our
snapping
borders.
turtle.
That is
That's
enough
a
to
good
kill more
one,
than
Paul
twice the
Langan.
population of the world, of our country.
Okay,
What
yeah,
actions are you
blah,
taking to
blah,
strengthen
blah,
the
blah.
FBI's
Prussian
fight against
blue.
illicit fentanyl
That's
within our
actually very, that sounds
Thank you,
really,
Congressman. It's
really,
good to see you.
really,
We
it
have
is
made it
not
a
Purple
priority at the
Badger.
FBI
Okay, I will
because
fight
fentanyl and
you.
illegal narcotics kill an American citizen every 7 minutes. That is a national
It's not
security
blue
crisis, not
purple.
just at the southern border, but at the northern border.
Notice he's
The
wearing a
Mexican cartels,
disgusting
along with their
gray
illicit partners
suit.
in the CCP and other
But Prussian
adversarial
blue
countries
sounds
that are
like
doing harm are
more
not just
closer
taking
to
the
what
fight
I was
down south,
thinking.
but they're bringing it up north. So we need to be more
It's not
vigilant
really as deep
to
as an
what's coming in through our
indigo,
northern border as well.
but it's
Known and suspected
along those
terrorists are flowing in
lines.
through our northern border more than they are our southern border.
Now I
would
need to
say
know what
because of
Prussian
the
blue
successes
looks like.
we've
I'm
had in
sorry.
closing
I mean,
the
but I
southern
think
border.
that
When it
actually
comes to
sounds.
specifically,
I mean, it looks
excuse me,
like that.
fentanyl, we are making, to date, since January 20th,
Ooh, it's also known as
383 kilograms
Berlin blue.
of seizures of illegal fentanyl, which is enough to kill 29 million
Images.
Americans.
And other than enhancing border security measures, what
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
the
yeah.
most
That's
worthwhile
it.
action the United
Shit,
States could
man.
take
Okay, hold on. I'm going to
eliminate
show
the
you.
cartels and stop the flow
Hold
of
on.
illicit fentanyl?
I got
I'm
one
gonna show
answer
you.
for you. They're making the precursors in mainland China.
That's
and
right.
We don't have the authorities to go after that fight there, and we need to take it head on, because without the chemicals and precursors, there is no fentanyl.
That's it.
And they are moving that
That's the
material
color
around the world
right
into
there.
the United
Oh,
States
man.
too freely.
Director Gabbard, I'd
Stop
like to
it.
reemphasize the threat that our adversaries
That's
are exploiting
Prussian
via
blue.
fentanyl
Oh,
and
whoops,
other
sorry,
illicit drugs that
Hegseth.
are entering our country through the border
That's
and
Prussian
poisoning
blue.
millions of Americans nationwide. It's essential that all components of our national security
That's
apparatus
Prussian
are
blue.
united
Yeah,
in
that's
their
it.
efforts
That's
to
the
protect
color.
the American people and our
Well
communities from such
done.
harm. Is there any reason to
Wow.
believe that the Mexican government isn't doing enough
Good job.
to eradicate the cartels and other transnational
But who's making the cursors? But who's making the cursors?
Congressman, I can only speak from my vantage
The
point. As was stated,
hexadecimal,
previously
the
by Director
hexadecimal
Ratcliffe.
code.
We have already been introduced to
I'll
and
tell you.
begun collaborating
I'll
with
tell you
our
what that is.
counterparts in the Mexican government.
hexadecimal.
Could there be more done? I would say absolutely yes. I know that the Trump administration across his cabinet are looking at opportunities to be able to do that.
And Director Patel just
God
hit
damn
on
it.
this with CCP and precursors, but to what extent have we seen other malicious actors worldwide partner with the cartels to infiltrate and target the United States?
It has
Related to the production of fentanyl.
Two.
India is one of those
Hexacyanoferrate
countries
2.
that is providing some of those precursor
The white solids
materials
have
as
formula
well as equipment.
M2FE bracket FE parentheses CN end parentheses space 6 end bracket.
Who are worried about this
That's what its
only,
number
but
is.
apparently
So
the
there.
Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman Ranking Member requested Inspector General report on this chat. So I'll tell you why more people are
I was trying to
worried
joke about the
this
white
than you
power
might
band of
think,
yore.
and
But
that's,
it is the blue, Prussian blue.
Director Gabbard, your position
It's
was
true, though.
post 9/11 because of the horrible intel failure that took place there, where we weren't sharing information. It wasn't adequately shared within the community and between our allies. We have to believe
It's still purple.
that our allies look at this as a colossal mistake.
It is
and
not.
at least hesitate
That
to
is
a
not
certain
the hex.
extent, wanting
I
to
just
share
read you the
sensitive
hexacode.
information with us that keeps us safe because they're worried about their sources and methods as well.
Yeah, see, there's no
Wouldn't you
purple
be
in
at
there.
least somewhat concerned that our allies
I gotta
would
go to
look
the
at
bathroom.
this and say, that wasn't the perfect way to communicate?
Congressman, thank you for the question. If that information that was put out in the chat by the Secretary of Defense had included specific sources and methods and targets and names, then the answer would be yes, but that was not the case.
Let me stop you there because there's such a limited time. Generals, look, you're here because you got tough spots, so I have to put you on the spots. You're passing information like this just within your agency, and you know that it's going to include, we are go for mission launch, Houthis, sea lanes, the information about the weapon systems. That gets to the Houthi military commanders. Doesn't it make you think they're at least going to say duck?
Thank you for the opportunity to weigh in on the issue. Yes, if we were collecting this on our adversaries and we're able to get this information as was asked of General Hawk earlier, we would consider that classified, but it's classified under the collection piece. The data that we're talking about here is the operational data, not the intelligence data.
Respectfully, sir, just because we have limited time.
Secretaries.
The Houthis military leader is going to duck when he hears this, or he's going to take some action, or he's going to try to shoot our planes down, right?
If he has actionable intelligence, he will certainly use that.
I'm talking about this intelligence. You don't think he can figure out? Houthis is mentioned a couple times, sea lanes. They show the weapon system. At least it's a credible warning to him.
I would offer the Houthis' defensive position has been constant since the 15th of March.
All right. General, I'll just take a whack at it. You're the Houthis' military leader. You get this information passed on to you. It doesn't make you at least take warning?
I would, Congressman, I think from the Houthis' perspective, they do have air defense equipment, and they would be able to detect aircraft when they're entered into the Red Sea, and certainly when we have our intelligence aircraft operating over top their country. They'd be able to detect that activity.
Hi, Steve.
But being forewarned is
Hold on, big noise.
important. I'll take another stab at it.
All right.
If just language like this in a different context.
It's not
okay?
kumquat orange.
Just
It's
within
vermilion.
your department, sir. Your people are passing this information. Do you advise that maybe they don't use Signal on this? Are there other forms? Obviously, they're going to be more secure.
What I would offer is the data that we would be passing would be the full target packages and the full set of operational information. and that
Okay,
would
but
be
even if it
classified.
was just this, do you
Can I
really
offer-
want to give the possibilities that they could be breached, hacked, and they would get this information? Wouldn't you, even with just this, sir, respectfully, wouldn't you want to use a more secure means of communicating?
I think
I
what I
like
would
come
offer are
twat.
two things.
I'm
that
I'm
would
I'm
be
gonna run
helpful
with
to you.
that one.
of
I'm
them
stealing
would
that
be,
one.
In addition to that full
Dark
package
at
that we would
Chooby-Doo.
talk about, when the secretary extracted individual details from that and provided those on Signal, whether individually or in aggregate, that is his decision of what is classified and what is not from an operational aspect. And that's probably the most important relevant piece to there. And I would echo what we've said before. It's the secretary's authority for the
Just give me, there's more secure ways of communicating any of this, right?
There are, and our adversaries have
General,
various
there are,
abilities
right?
to intercept.
There's much more secure means that you use, even if you don't think that this is, or you don't want to stick your
What
head
I
out
would
on
say
it.
is the full packages were transmitted within classified, within traditional classified.
But
means.
this could
All
have
of
been
the ones
transmitted in a classified way as well. Thank you.
Gentleman's time's expired. The gentleman from Arkansas, the distinguished chair of the Financial Services Committee, Mr. Hill, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
No,
let me say,
you're not.
Director
You're not
Gabbard and
distinguished at
Director
all.
Radcliffe, it's so great to have you back in the Longworth.
So
House
great
office
to have
building.
you back. I
The
love
food's
you,
the same,
Texas.
but you're welcome anytime. Director Radcliffe, you know, we've served for 10 years together. I'm certainly aware of your extraordinary service at the DNI and here in Congress. And I just have a couple of follow-up questions on this topic of the Signal chat. Were there any war plans distributed in that Signal chat?
Any war plans?
No, Congressman.
And
Anything
were
you'd call a
sources and
war
methods
plan?
that would compromise our intelligence system or your agents in the field around the world, were they discussed on the
Or
Signal
your chief
chat?
of staff?
I appreciate that. I just think that's an important thing to have on
Yeah,
the record.
because this wasn't that
Director
big a
Patel, I co-chair
mistake.
the Americans wrongfully detained American hostage task force here in the House, and I just in fact left Tigran Gambaryan, a former FBI official who I helped get out of prison in Nigeria last year. I just left him a few minutes ago. You've been, you know this issue very, very well, and President Trump's made such a commitment to bring Americans home. There's some 30
yeah.
Americans still wrongfully detained
Where?
or held hostage abroad. Is the FBI committing to work through its officials in our embassies around the world to bring those Americans home?
Thank you, Congressman. And as you know from my
I love the
prior service in the prior administration,
Pantone
President
conversations
Trump brought
going
home
on
over
in the
50
chat.
hostages and detainees worldwide.
I love it.
And that effort is being redoubled now until every single American is home. And the FBI, from my perspective,
What'd you guys
has
talk
been
about in
given a
chat
directive that
today?
any
Well,
wrongfully detained
about the different
or captured person overseas is
hexagrams
a
of
priority to bring
colors.
back.
We're so grateful
I
to
love
the
that.
President for making this a priority. We don't want our citizens that hold a blue
Listen,
passport to
all
suddenly
these
be a
guys are
target
lining
of all
up.
their interactions around the world. That's wrong, and I'm glad President Trump's made it a priority. I look forward to working with you on that. Since November of 2023, I've been pursuing aggressively.
Yeah,
in this
hexadecimal.
committee
Yeah, that one.
The U.S. government's policies and procedures for handling border encounters, specifically known or suspected terrorists. To quote former FBI directors, testimony before the Senate, there are blinking lights everywhere.
Did someone say
of
eyes?
concern. But despite my numerous attempts, including multiple briefing requests, letters, legislative provisions, a GAO
Thanks, Obama.
Report requested, the prior administration refused to provide
Well, good
requested
luck,
information and
or
data on
good
what the
news.
public
They're
now
not in
knows is a
power
very
anymore.
dangerous
Now it's
situation
you
along the US
guys. What are you going
borders
to do with it?
that President Trump now has as a priority of fixing.
God, you guys
In
just
January
will not stay
2024, there were
still.
176,000 encounters along the southern border, with 51,000 occurring at ports
That's
of
good
entry
enough.
and 124,000 between ports of entry.
Yeah, when are they going to
Comparing
go
that
after
to the work
Biden
just
for
in the
this
first
fuck
few
up?
weeks of the Trump
Did Biden
administration,
install
total encounters are
Signal
down
on
to
people's phones?
61,000 along the border,
Damn
with
it.
32 at ports of entry and 29,000 between ports of entry. For the record, that's a 60% reduction.
Oh, that's great.
Director Patel, since President Trump took office in
Oh,
January,
I'm not on
has
camera. I
seen
didn't even
these
realize that.
plummeting
I'm so
border
sorry.
encounter
God, I
numbers.
thought I was on camera this whole
Country's
time.
seen a drop in known
How am I not
or
on camera?
suspected terrorist
I'm so sorry. I've been here the whole time.
Thank you, Congressman. It's one of the issues I really wanted to address today.
Oh, here we go.
And I think the country deserves to know that known or suspected terrorists, KSTs, are coming in with
KSTs?
much less frequency at the southern border.
So why
In
do we
fact,
need
if my
you? So you're
information's
out of a
correct,
job, right?
2
Is
since
that what you're
January
trying to tell
20th,
us?
And they are coming in with much greater frequency in the northern border, and since January 20th, that number is 34. And those metrics carry out over the last year in terms of ratio.
Oh, well, that's kind
So
of
what it
new
tells
information,
me
isn't
is
it?
that known or suspected terrorists, the individuals that want to do the most harm to this country, are utilizing the northern border, and we got to refocus assets up there.
I just have to stop the presses here for a minute. Did he just say that the terrorism efforts now have to be focused on Canada? Are you kidding me? Is that not, that's new information to me. Is that not new information to all of you? Because I listen pretty fucking closely to what these guys say, and not a fucking one of them has talked about terrorism coming over the northern border. What? He's not talking about fentanyl. He's talking about terrorists. Oh, by heritage, you've been aware of the Canadian threat? I haven't. I feel like I'm not at the intellectual chud level. I'm at the lower chud level. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I heard that right.
Yeah, which I think is good. And I'm glad the prior administration did declassify the ISIS arrests in Philadelphia and did declassify the
It's new to
citizen who was
me.
coming across the northern border to do harm
I don't
on
know.
Election Day. That's good, but we have much more to do.
I'm gonna
And
look it up.
Director Gabbard, I need your help working with your colleagues here. It's this idea of requesting coordination between Director Patel, Secretary Noem, and the committee with fused data on known or suspected terrorists, whether it's TSA data, BPP data, FBI internal data. We want to have that coming to us. Where are these people? What's been done with them? What is the government's position on? Will you commit to work with us as OD&I to get this information from across the government, IC?
Absolutely, Congressman. And as you know, our National Counterterrorism Center was really created to fulfill exactly that task, so that we're not dealing with multiple vetting systems that are coming up with different results, that we have this central vetting database to be able to identify those known or suspected terrorists who may be trying to come into our country, or who may be one of the tens of millions who illegally crossed into our border, may have come into our country during the last 4 years.
We look forward to working with you. Thank you for your answers, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Ms. Tinney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much to all of you. There's so many great questions that I have to ask, but I want to start with Director Patel, and I just want to first, before I get into a couple issues, thank you so much for your outstanding service and your recognition and focus on the northern border. My entire district is the northern border of New York with Canada. I just want to first jump into this issue for, Hamas attacked October 7th. The world watched in horror. Designated a foreign terrorist organization in 1997, killed over 1,200 civilians, and including American citizens, and many remain hostages. Only slightly less disturbing, we had a myriad of seemingly coordinated pro-Hamas demonstrations that have taken place all over the United States, in my state of New York, on college campuses, in Washington, D.C., universities. Director Patel, does the FBI have any open investigations into the organization, the leadership, and the funding of these pro-Hamas demonstrations with students such as, and groups such as Students for Justice in Palestine?
Thank you, ma'am. And I'm limited by what the Attorney General has already publicized, but as you know, there are open investigations based on what's been made public.
Okay. Has the FBI uncovered any evidence of foreign support for these Hamas demonstrations, including, other than Iran, any of these groups I might mention, like Students for Justice in Palestine, anything that's open source that we can talk about?
That's still ongoing.
Thank you. Director Gabbard, thank you so much for your service. It was great to serve with you in Congress as well, and work so much on wonderful veterans issues. My son's also a Marine major, and so we appreciate the service of everybody here. Let's keep in mind, obviously we're in open session. Do you have anything or ongoing intelligence to suggest there's foreign support from governments, non-government groups, and individuals that have helped these pro-Hamas demonstrations all across America, including on university campuses?
Congresswoman, there are some assessments that reflect that, and we can talk about that in the closed session.
Great, thank you so much. And now I want to get back to Cash, Director. Great work on the northern border. I'm one of the co-founders of the Northern Border Security Caucus, and your information has been tremendous. Once I got the district that I represent now, this sprawling, long district, the entire northern border is Canada. And as you say, 358 suspects on the terror watch list. Almost 90% of the suspects on the terror watch list are coming across our northern border.
There's nothing recent.
I'd love to talk to you. What is the FBI doing specifically dealing with
I mean,
this
not
northern
uber
border?
recent that I'm seeing, and that's
what
probably.
access point are you? Who are you working with? Is there a way that we have got a way to handle this with the foreign terror threats? And I say this in light of my district
I see the
specifically, where New York State, led by
heritage.
Democrats,
Wait, hold
by the
on.
way, is notorious for their, unwillingness to work with, law enforcement. Under Governor Cuomo, we cut off the ability. I know Congressman Quigley talked about working together after 9/11. The state hit hardest by 9/11, and Governor Cuomo put in a law that prohibited law enforcement from working together in 2019. What are we doing so we can work with New York, the government and others, to make sure that this doesn't happen across our New York northern border?
Well, one, and this is out of my lane, but what we need to be doing is working with the Canadian government because they sit on top of our northern border. We do have the problem of tyranny of distance and sheer geography as compared to the southern border, but when we were told that the Mexican government would not work with us, we overcame that hurdle, and we've seen the immediate results, as I highlighted to your colleague, about northern border contacts with KSTs versus the southern border. The other thing we can be doing is working across every northern border state who has a geographic border with Canada and their local and state affiliates, which we are doing at the FBI, but it is such a vast enterprise that we would need a huge increase in resources to cover down on that the way we do in Mexico.
In addition, thank you for that. In addition with working with the Canadians, are you also working with the New York State government? Because we do have a number of interesting assets, a sprawling Akwesasne Mohawk Reservation.
Yeah, I guess I see
that
something
kinda goes
from
across the northern
January,
border
like
with,
a little
New York
explainer
and
about
Canada,
the
those types of
borders,
things,
both in
ways
Canada
that we
and
can
why
work with
the
New York
Trump
government and
administration
also
is
in coordination
targeting
with the
both.
Canadian Royal Police.
All right, that
Absolutely,
makes sense.
ma'am, and you highlight a great point. A lot of the northern border touches upon tribal lands, and we need to work with tribal leaders throughout the country as effectively as we do with state and local governments, and at the FBI, we're doing just that.
What's wrong with your
Thank you so much.
microphone,
I really
idiot?
appreciate all of your service, and I yield my time back.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Fallon's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Director Patel, many of us had grown, increasingly alarmed at the sheer number of foreign nationals we're seeing caught spying on our critical infrastructure or, near sensitive sites in the country. One example is a Chinese national who was flying a drone, allegedly flying a drone over Vandenberg and taking pictures of the base. He was arrested in the San Francisco airport not that long after. Director Patel, would you agree that the two most dangerous nation states to our homeland and our interests are China and Russia?
Yes, Congressman.
So it would stand to reason that we should pay particular attention when foreign nationals from these two countries, who we've already established are the greatest threats to our country now and in the future, when they try to sneak into our country illegally.
Absolutely, sir.
Can you speak on the illegal migration we see from Russia and China and the differences that we saw from the first Trump administration to the Biden administration?
Well, one, the problem you have when you have an effective resolution to that set of issues is that the enemy adapts. And what they've done is utilize, as we were just discussing with your colleague, the northern border to shift their resources and affiliations to pour in known or suspected terrorists through the northern border. They haven't stopped through the southern border. They just know that we are setting up a pretty monumental effort down there to stop any known or suspected terrorists from entering the country. But the thing is, the Chinese, the Russians, Iranians, and other adversaries are utilizing their partners, just like they are doing in terms of how they move illicit fentanyl precursors into this country. They're moving
Can you
humans
sit
in
up,
the
sir?
same fashion, and we need to treat it as such.
Did you see an increase from the first Trump administration to the Biden administration on Russian and Chinese nationals crossing the border? Did it increase or decrease?
Yes, actually, so the PRC nationals crossing the southern border from 22 to 25 was 178,000. And I don't have the number.
Did
for
you
the northern border,
extrapolate
but I'll
that
get
number?
to you.
So
I'm pretty
what
sure
we
you
found
did.
was that there was actually a market increase, alarming, with the Chinese
I
illegal
want to know the
migration
number. I want to see the data.
527% all in.
I want to see the
and
data.
Russian, 2,400%. And if just
I want to see the data.
1%, some fraction, some tiny
It's all
fraction,
ludicrous. You're
1/10 of 1%
right.
are actually assets.
And I know they say things. I'm just saying I haven't heard Kash Patel or the intelligence or security apparatus discuss Canada as a haven for terrorists. That is the part I'm saying that I have not seen.
Director Patel, there's also great
I
concern
know
about the
it's
increasing number
easy
of
for them to
counterintelligence
point to that.
threats
I've
that
heard
are
them talk
penetrating
about it.
all
I just
levels
didn't
and
see the
branches of
recent
government,
kind of
both
push
local
on
and
it,
state
which makes sense. It's coming from
The
Heritage, and
number
it
of
takes some
elected and
time to
appointed
trickle
officials
down to
willing
Kash
betray this
Patel.
country is becoming increasingly pervasive. Last year, we saw a former senior aide in the New York governor's
Exactly.
office,
Columbia
Linda
University
Sue,
is a lesson for
son,
all
and her
how the
husband,
Trump mob
Chris
plans to
Wu,
silence free speech on campuses.
indicted on
Yep.
charges of money laundering and acting as foreign
Yep.
agents to the People's Republic of China.
Well,
His
Mahmoud
son
Khalil
used her position to block
should be a
Taiwanese
cautionary
representatives
tale
from
to
access
every
to New York
person
City
in this
officials. Instead,
country.
we're rolling out the red carpet for those PRC officials to have those meetings.
And
I
he,
mean, that's
he
some
has
scary
got
stuff.
to be
So when we have
released
someone like
and
Sue Mi Terry,
exonerated.
who also worked covertly spying on Korea while working simultaneously with various think tanks, and she had been national security official, and she'd worked for the CIA.
Who
and the
are you
National
talking
Security Council,
about?
and because of her job, members of Congress and their staffs had access to these Korean intelligence officials, and she was paid with, she had thousands of dollars.
Okay, wait.
in
What are we
gifts.
talking about?
But
When did
Director
this
Patel, I
happen?
get that these investigations are ongoing and sensitive, but to the extent that you can, could you
Well, he
please briefly
can't.
highlight the severity rather, of these counterintelligence threats, including a rough estimate of the number of open counterintelligence cases that are pending?
We have many, and I'll get
We
you
have
the
many.
exact number, sir, in closed session.
They arrested
But
7
what it
people in
highlights is that the
Akron.
enemy is not relenting.
Here, I want you to
They're
read
actually
this.
Doubling down and tripling down on their efforts, and there's no sector in government that they
Shut up. Nobody cares what you're saying. Okay. I got to get rid of the Prussian blue. Hold on. Okay. Gal, resign, traitor. How dare you put American troops in danger to fluff your own ego in an attempt to appear to your colleagues that you aren't the unqualified drunk rapist that you are. Agree. Pete Hegseth tweeted, I guess, this morning. So let me get this straight. The Atlantic released the so-called war plans, and those plans include no names, new targets, new locations, new units, new routes, new sources, new methods, and new classified information. Those are some really shitty war plans. This only proves one thing. If Jeff Goldberg has never seen a war plan or an attack plan, as he now calls it, not even close. I'll send him a real one. I mean, I won't send him a real one. But I might if I have a couple too many White Claws. Burp, burp. I need that. Pow, 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 that horn. I got to do that today. That's what I'm going to do. As I type this, my team and I are traveling to Indo-PACOM region, meeting with commanders, the guys who make real war plans. Yeah. And I'm going to suck all their dicks. Yeah. And I'm going to talk to the troops. And by talking, I'm going to suck all their dicks. We will continue to do our job half-assedly while the media does what it does best. Report things. I mean, peddle hoaxes. What a fucking idiot. To which I said, wait, where was it? I don't know. Can I see my, oh, here's my quote. To which I said, yeah! Resign, traitor. Yes. Anyway, sorry. Well, oh, whoops. Adjourned. Whoopsie. Well, you know what? Be careful what you wish for. Because it might just be. Okay, so here's what we do have. Hold on, I'm not done with you yet. I think. Wait, what time is it? Oh, it is 3 hours. Damn it. Okay. I probably do have to wrap. Okay. I'm going to wrap this session of Wake and Bake since we're at the 3-hour mark. And I'm not sure if I'm able to come back today, but in 25 minutes, there is a White House press briefing. If you all, oh, see, this is so dumb because it's not updating my chat. I'm so sorry. Hegseth and Kavanaugh both like beer. Oh, I have that sounding effect too. I have a lot of things to load. White Claws in my dorm fridge at the Defense Department Office Man Cave. Those look like war. I mean, they look pretty specific. I think there's probably people who know where this fucking guy's girlfriend lives. Okay, I'm just gonna guess. I'm gonna guess that that's not a huge leap. Mr. Boozyvelt. Mr. Boozyvelt. Oh my God, they better not get any damn votes. Boozy. Will I wear the engineer glasses on the neck? Is that a special request, Paul? Sure, why not? I'm sure I'll have to. So there's that. But I think I might come back. More viewers stay with engineering glasses. Do I increase my watch time if they do that? Yeah, I might. I don't know. Do you guys want to watch the White House press briefing together, or will you absolutely stab yourself in the head? Because I don't want you to stab yourselves in the head. But if you want me to come back in 24 minutes for the, okay, great, I'll do it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end this here, and I'll be back in about 24 minutes for the really, really painful White House briefing. So that we can make fun of Caroline. I wonder what pastel color and praising Jesus color she'll be wearing today. I can't. Yeah, I'll be watching it. Yeah, I'll be watching it anyway. All right. I'll see you guys in a few. For those of you who can return, no worries if you can. I understand. You know, people have lives. I get it. All right. Thanks for coming this morning. I sure appreciate it. And